Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. 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 Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
All right, welcome. Let's get started. I know we're expecting Doughboy's crowd here in a minute or two. He didn't know if he knew how to raid. I don't know if I'll know if he raided or not. But we're all learning a little bit together, both the streaming side and the gaming side. But hopefully everybody's Fool's Day is off to a great start. Ours is very much in the to be determined phase. I managed to not look at a single thing from our own stable today. I caught a little bit of Peep stream back when the laptop battery was working quite well, less so after it wasn't. And then I caught some of Doughboy. So we'll have GVG eventually when he gets antsy to show his stuff off, the Secretariat / Mr. B, and then maybe the JJ, depending upon the level of numbness. He had a dentist visit this morning. I'm supposed to go tomorrow, but I don't think that that's going to work because contrary to what Segundo Stables thinks, shout out to Bryce, I legitimately took this day off like a month ago, had a meeting that could not be pushed, allegedly, and then ended up getting what I think now this morning is COVID. And I say this because you're here for all the gory details every time we stream anyways, is there might have been a pile of dog poop at some point in the last day in the house that I was pretty close to, like pretty good proximity, call it 10 feet, and I couldn't smell it at all. So that kind of sucks, and that definitely means that I probably shouldn't go to the dentist tomorrow, and hopefully I'm better by the time family comes to town this weekend. But we've given it a little bit. We've got a couple people in here. We expect more when Doughboy gets his raid off. So while we're waiting for that to happen, we can cruise through what we used on the sire side this time. So for those that don't know, we participate basically only in 3 archetypes, those being right turf firm, left turf soft, and left dirt firm. If we ever have anything that's not that, it's a stepping stone piece for us, or it was just a pretty good deal, so we grabbed it. On the left turf soft side, let me get the whole screen up. On the left turf soft, we used Pluto, which is our own. It's the rank 30 fine filly with rank 1 9924 at LTS. That's the second rarest combination of 9924 at LTS. The other one is got a funky name, and it only recently retired. We've used Pluto only once before, I think. We used it for the first crop and hadn't circled back to it yet, so now it felt like a good time to bring it back into the fold. I think the first crop wasn't overwhelmingly great on the track, but certainly wasn't bad either. So kind of a nothing burger, but felt like a good opportunity to bring it back around. We'll go back through our sires one more time each before we probably look externally. For those that missed it, we had a really great result with Blood Moon last crop. Blood Moon is S-2 match from Eddie or Pocono Racing. Took an A+ to it, which is the highest total boost A+ at LTS, but was not expecting to get an S Colt with really good preferences. So I think at this point we've got the other bloodlines covered internally, 9923, 9924, 9925, and then we can round that fourth sire out with the one we created last time. So that's kind of the plan going forward on LTS for us. The other one on right turf firm, again, this one is another one of ours. All 3 technically will be ours this time around. We try to spread the wealth and use someone else's sire, and we'll get to that with the next one. We made it our own sire. It wasn't initially our sire, but Dirty Diana was one of the first Gen 1 Colts to hit the barn. Has really strong preferences. Wasn't crazy racer. It was good. Jupiter wasn't a crazy racer. Diana was a very good racer. If we look at breeding reports between Dirty Diana and Jupiter, it seemed pretty clear that, from a stats-based focus, Jupiter was probably going to give you the better stats. But obviously, with only, what do we got here? 7 preferences. Dirty Diana offers a little more upside on the preferences, having 8 to start with. And something I think we'll talk about a little bit further when we get in here is I think we're seeing a lot of really good outcomes from Gen 1 Colts. I was suspicious of whether or not that would be true, but I did catch the YSM reveal and had some really good outcomes there using a lot of Gen 1 pieces. So whereas in beta, we were pretty heavily focused on using Gen 0, Gen 0, Gen 0, Gen 0, we may open that up. And luckily we did kind of unintentionally this last month. So looking forward to the RTF reveals here with Dirty Diana. We did make a couple whoopsies. Because Dirty Diana is from Jupiter, anything that was a crop 1, we used Jupiter with. So we had to make sure we used a different sire for that. We used Mercury, our S- internal colt. That's been pretty good, actually. Turned out the Art Right Turf major winner this past season. But on the ones that I was not paying as much attention to, Diana has this rarity 62 sire. We have another A+ Gen 0 filly named Hazel that shares the same sire. And I knew it at one point. I probably knew it at like 6 points. But when it came to smashing the breeding button, I bred Hazel and the crop 1 Hazel with Dirty Diana. So that will be 2 inbreeds. We'll check that out. I know Doughboy shared a fairly ridiculous inbreed, but there was a little more inbreeding going on than sharing one common ancestor on that one. So curious to see those, but curious to see the lot from Dirty Diana. And then at Left Dirt Firm, we bought Jimmy Squarefoot. We finally badgered Vijay into selling this piece. I know Riptide from Grape Syndicate was on with Pete this morning and shared his story of him trying to buy it. Funny enough, I mean, obviously PFL is a small world so far, but General Duke was initially ours. This is one that we minted, or bred, whatever you want to say, and traded to Peeb in a now infamous deal. I always thought it was really good for us. It went by Randy Moss in the first beta. I'm not sure. Maybe we didn't even have it for the second beta. It's been a little bit. But when I start reviewing what other people have done, I noticed that there was a lot of people trying to take LDF into LDS, but there wasn't that many people trying to bring LDS into LDF. Then you couple that with, at LDF, kind of what exists naturally is a lot of sprinters, Ziggy, some of the Astros, all of the non-101s basically had their best 2 stats be start and speed, where if you go to LDS, suddenly you bring in finish. If we're trying to corner the market on Kentucky Derby contenders, or at least have horses run there, it seemed like bringing finish into LDF was a winning strategy. So I don't think Jimmy Squarefoot obviously wasn't a great racer. It's an S from an S and an S-. Obviously a pretty solid S- to begin with, which gives you that extra half star staying firm there. So this is really a stepping stone piece for us. It brings 9924 into LDF. Depending on the results today, there's a chance we run it back with Jimmy Squarefoot, because I really mean what I said, in the sense that I'm trying to do things that aren't done all the time or haven't been done yet. And when I saw that Jimmy Squarefoot was really the only, I mean, there have been some that have been born since. I don't know if there's any S pluses. And we actually bred with One Eyed Blind, which is the namesake horse of OEB Racing. It's a fairly unique S colt at LDS. So those foals will now be 1-year-old that we've done. Some other people have done that as well, but a foal that's 1 you can't breed with for 3 more seasons. This we can already use. So I think that puts us ahead and gives us a chance to maybe make a better LDF colt than Jimmy Squarefoot at LDF with our own pieces. So we swung for the fences this time. We used a ton. Our LDF volume, you can see on the right side of the screen. I know the font's going to be a little small there, but we had 23 bites at the apple for LDF, and they all went to Jimmy Squarefoot. So hoping for good results there. I'm guessing Doughboy hasn't rated yet, but we will get started as long as my screen stays. I might even, oh my God, the screen was good before. I'm averting my eyes because I don't want to see it. I know Peeb has it where you can just sort by age, but I think my OCD would make me not be able to see grades out of order. So we'll do it this way. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Okay, that's actually nice that I was worried they were going to reveal. I know there were some issues with the site earlier today, but I just wanted to be able to reveal our own. So as you can see on the right side of the screen, we definitely have a spreadsheet pulled up that I was going to maybe track results. I even flagged those inbreeds so we can look at that. If it becomes too cumbersome to follow along with that, we'll potentially just abort that and I can do it after the fact. But I guess before I get started, I see GVG's in the background. I appreciate him being patient there. We'll let him see if he wants to be here for this or if he wants to go to his table first. So GVG, welcome, welcome.
Stins, happy Foal's Day, sir. How are you?
Not too bad, minus the COVID crap. But I think I sound pretty good. And I feel the best I felt since Friday. So that part's pretty exciting.
Yeah, sounding good, man. Hope you start feeling better too.
Yeah. Do you want to do yours? Do you want to ride along with this? What do you want to do?
Whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm down to do mine, down to go through yours and then do mine, whatever you want to do.
Let's do this since we teased it. We're still waiting for some people. Doughboy, a lot of failed promises with him rating. So the people will want to see your stable. So we'll give them that when we get them here. So we'll rip through. We'll try to go fairly quick with this. So Jade is a A- Gen 0. We'll get an A. This might be too hard to do. Definitely preferences. We're not doing preferences. Summer's LDF. A. Not great, but not a piece that is super meaningful to us. I don't think. Scarlet is an RTS technically. If someone wants a Gen 0 RTS, that one is definitely available. We keep using it because we can use it, but it doesn't fit what we're trying to accomplish. Not great gender on the first couple here, but hopefully the Phillies make up for it at the top. The preference Nazis will like that one. Another Colt though. Sage, another RTF, another Colt, another one that preference Nazis will like. Ruth. What is Ruth? I don't even know. We'll find out. RTF, another Colt. That's normally where we get some of our sales volume from is RTF, but if they're all Colts, it's not going to be super helpful. Another one. Lovely. This is going super well. Reagan, I think, is an LDF. No, RTF. Shows you how much I pay attention to that horse, but yet another Colt. It's getting to be a little worrisome. Miss Lippy, it's actually turned out some good racers at LTS. It's A originally, but I think all of its offspring have been pretty good. I know you and I have talked privately about is there anything to make of kind of offspring's result on the track, especially when you're changing the sire. So this one I'll be curious to race, but apparently it's gonna race in claimers. We are bricking hard. May You Never would be an LDF. Wow. Holy smokes. We got one filly. All these are claimers, I guess. Jasmine is initially an A- LTS. And that horse had always put out filly, so that's when you know it's just not your day. Hope is a LDF. Colt, weird. This is super interesting. That's like 12 in a row. Give me a filly here. Okay. 9 of 9. A plus. So this is an inbreed. This is the first inbreed. So the original Gen 0 filly was an A plus as well. It bred with an S. So you could call that it should have been an S minus, could have even been an S. But for those that are less familiar with what inbreeding looks like, on the grandparent, you have the same sire as you do on the great grandparent on the sire side. That's a complicated one because, like, I would feel super bad if I listed that in the marketplace because you know people are going to see 9 of 9. They're not even going to realize it's inbred, so I don't even know what to do with that. Might even be a good racer. I think there's still a case to be made that inbred horses can make great racers. I think the examples we saw in beta was really up the variance, so you could have really good variance on start and speed, and then you could have just bricked everywhere else. But if you had start and speed, you could still be a really good sprinter. And if you kept that global grade down because you bricked elsewhere, like an A plus restricted stakes, could that be a really good horse? So I'm not sure what to do there, but at least on one piece I would like to have gotten a filly. I did. Okay, we're improving a little bit. I didn't even update that one. I was so distraught with the number of colts I was getting in a row. And then Crimea River, which is exactly what I was doing. We also get an A plus. Willow, this is an LDF. I think its offspring qualified for the Derby this year, for this season. S minus Colt. So that means of all the places we still have to fill in, everything else is S minus or better. So that part doesn't suck for sure, but was hoping for more on the filly side for sure. Whopper, LDF. Filly, okay. What if we just run fillies the rest of the way? That would be lovely. I guess if I got S pluses, which I don't know, probably not. I wouldn't mind those being colts, but Page Turner, RTF, Colt, wishful thinking too soon. Savannah Smiles, RTF. Again, our naming convention is that if it's a singular female name, that's the Gen 0. And then anything else after that means it would have been a Gen 1 offspring from the original. Where do I have that on here? Oh, just below. They're not ranked on the right side of the screen, but they're kind of close. At least the Gen Zeros would be pretty close to what I would have ranked them as. Sage Wisdom, nice reveal there. That's actually a crop 2 horse. Sage Advice would be crop 1. Ruby has been a really nice breeding piece for us. This is the one that made the S from an A plus and an S minus last month. It was a colt, which in that case was a good outcome. I would assume that this is an S minus, so we want a filly here. And we get it. That's a nice one. Of the ones I care about so far, we get both of them as fillies. The one is an inbreed, so that makes that hard, but Rosebud would be Gen 1. Another RTF Colt. Holy smokes. I don't know where we're going to race all of our RTF Colts, but we've got a few. Rose. Yikes. River of Dreams. Banger song. Billy. Okay. We'll take that. Princess Jasmine. So this would be Gen 1 of Jasmine LTS. Philly. Okay. I mean, LTS is where I do still care the most. It's the one area we were super far behind everybody. Our best Gen 0 LTS Philly was an A+. So we're trying to catch up, and the only way to do that is to get some Phillies there. Paige has turned out some pretty good offspring as racers. I know a poker player grabbed one from us fairly early on and has had some success with it. Some of ours have been good, and we've got 2 nice S- Phillies coming from that bloodline, so that'll be nice. Old Trafford is A+ LDF. I think this either made Apollo's Arrow, which is the one that qualified for the Kentucky Derby we sold last week. I think it is. Because when it didn't have his female singular name, that meant we bought it from someone else. And then at that point, my naming convention goes out the window a little bit. So that's a nice outcome there. That one I will be paying attention to because, again, we've had some success on the track. And that's what seems to catch my attention more than even stars. S- out of May. Mary Song. I think this is LTS. Another female at LTS. We're crushing that ratio. Mary would be the Gen 0 LTS. Okay. Jesus. Lucy in the Sky. Great song. And I do care about this one. This would have been 8.5 total preference. Gen 0. This would be the Gen 1. The Gen 0 was an A+. Want a Philly here. Want great preferences. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have reset. The reset probably cost me the gender there, maybe, if you believe in curses or jinxes. Lucy is, again, the Gen 0. Want a Philly here. It's one of our better pieces. Okay, take that. And that remind me to ask you your thoughts on, are you trying to sell from, if you're selling Phillies, are you selling from, well, you can answer now. Are you selling from Gen 0 or are you selling from Gen 1? We'll pause.
I've done a bit of both, to be honest with you. I think it's obviously kind of out to see, still to be determined how much variance we're going to see when you're, going Gen 2. I'm not sure. I haven't had a chance to look at a lot of reveals and stuff today. I had kind of a late start with getting some other things done, so playing catch up. But I don't know. What about you guys? I know you haven't sold a ton in general, but
well, the later months we have. I'm not going to try to make it sound like we're not selling, but we're also revealing 75 Foals on stream today too. So we're not selling.
You have to sell some. Yes.
I think the first month the first month we had the decision point of do you sell Gen 0 Phillies or do you sell Gen 1 Phillies? I was almost exclusively from the Gen 1 because part of the logic there was, well, if you've already used one of one to make that Gen 1, then you have one less where the Gen 0 has all of its options at its disposal. But like we could talk a little bit about what we saw with YSM this morning, maybe even some of your stuff. It seems like I'm starting to second guess my decision of that Gen 0 is clearly the way to go. Now, it does not alleviate those inbreeding or breeding paths concerns that you would have, but it seems like the Gen 1s are getting some crazy variance in outcomes, and with that means you're going to get crazy good and maybe somewhat crazy bad. So,
yep,
continue to monitor, I guess. We got 3 straight S- probably LTF or LTS pieces here. Shout out to Gooch. I'll get to that comment, but yeah, I mean, my refrain is always, if everybody wins, I actually win quite well. I don't need to take every dollar. And I know GBG's has been there and he's tried to keep his stable size more manageable than we've managed to do. So no, appreciate that. I got asked by one of the partners in our stable. If we missed out on all the Ted Stimmy today because we didn't do this reveal yet, so we didn't have anything to sell. If we did, so be it. That's probably just going to mean better deals for everybody else that held off. I know some people had asked for us to let them know before we started listing stuff, so we'll certainly have some today. It'll take me a little bit to get through this, get done with the stream, and then maybe target late afternoon, early evening for when we list some stuff. So, okay, nice preferences there. I just wanted to make sure I did get the last one. I don't know what to do with all these LTS fillies. I wish we were more balanced by archetype on the fillies, but I guess I should just happily take them because when I say something, I get a colt. Okay, still S minus here. LDF. Yikes. I don't love selling colts because they have a pretty good market for claimers, but we'll see. We're gonna have a bunch. Juno is a unique S minus, so no 1 of 1s. So if this is still an S minus, that's a bit of a feels bad because it would have bred with an S, and it is at least filly there. It hasn't been a great piece for us, but when you can start at S minus and you can not use any one of 1s, like longer term, that piece probably factors prominently. So Juniper Blossom. So Juniper, the bloodline for us has been the one we're paying the most attention to these days. Juniper Infused won the Right Turf Major this past season. The sire was Mercury from our barn. Obviously, the dam was Juniper from our barn. What is now a 3-year-old Juniper Lemon might even be better as a racer. And actually, you guys are probably going to miss out because I don't think we're going to reveal that one until the last day we can still breed with it because it seems to be a pretty good racer. And whereas most times I'm willing to give up a couple of days of racing to provide streaming content, I think a couple of those we're going to keep on the track. So again, this looks like it's probably still an S minus, which on the grade side is probably a little disappointing. Because Juniper Blossom would have been already was an S minus, so it stays the same grade probably. Get a filly though, and we needed fillies at RTF. Juniper, so this is the Gen 0 A plus, so an S minus here is not a bad result. I'd take a filly. Nope. Okay, I'm not going to scroll up because I don't want to see the global grades. I think we've got to be getting somewhat close to S's here. Janie's got a gun. That is Gen 1 from Jane, which is 8.5 total preference, A plus RTF. So again, this bloodline of Jane here, both of these would be important to us. Filly with good preferences. Colt with almost, dare I say, great preferences. I guess you take that. 1 of each. And then go up to... Yeah, an S maybe? No. Okay. Okay, full of Jackie Kennedy. That's an LDF. I'm just going to keep scrolling because I think we got to be getting close. Again, this is an S minus to begin with. Okay, filly. We'll take that at least. Chance that it's an S? I don't know. We've got to be close. No. Full of Ivy. That's LTS, and that's only an A plus. So this is probably still another S minus. But we get a filly there. I'm going to assume it's S minus. Yep. I guess I could have probably figured out which ones we still had left to do. Hazel-eyed Chemist. So this is 2 of 2 on inbred. This was an S minus to begin with. We know it stays S minus. So the 2 inbreds we did this, again, unintentionally this time, but presumably both stayed S minus. I'll even tease that. Filly here would be interesting because then you can continue to breed it. I don't know if I can sell these. It's a colt. So then we'll race it and not have to worry about trying to sell it, I guess. Harmonies LTS. Filly. This crushing fillies on the at archetype and RTF and LDF, not so much. Full of Grace, another LTS A plus initially. Colt. I open my mouth and get another Colt. Okay, so here we might even be to the S's. I don't know. I should know. But Goat was our probably best Gen 0 horse at RTF. It was an S. So this is an age 1. I think this has got to be an S. Goat's Head Soup was an S. That's the first offspring of Goat. So now my guess is we're into the S's now. And I do actually care about the outcomes of the Goat ones, but such is life when you care. That's a male. We'll do the Georgia one. This would surprise me because Georgia is an A. So to go from an A all the way up, maybe these are still S minuses. And a Colt. Yowzers on the female to Colt ratio on their S minuses. Wow. So that sucks. But with Georgia, I probably should have assumed as much. Looks like we still have Anna out there. That's probably going to be an S minus 2. So Faith, LTS, Gen 0, or A plus, Filly. Man, can I trade genders on some of these horses? Sorry, I should get rid of that comment on the chat, but Ember Moon, LDF. Assume these are S minuses still. Ember is a Gen 0, so that's probably still an S minus. It is. Colt. We should be getting close to the interesting stuff. Not that these aren't interesting. I know these would be very good for a lot. So Diana's, again, one of our best Gen 0 pieces. It was an S minus originally. So we've got Diana here, which would have been bred with Jupiter, I think this time, did not inbreed. So basically a run back of Dirty Diana, which is the sire we used. Driving Miss Daisy was an A plus that last time with Persian Bold, which is an S minus out of OEB's stable. So an S minus and an A plus made an S last time. Could we do it again? Oh, Diana's still on S minus. God, Diana's been like the worst breeder for our barn since we've been live. This one's a good outcome here, but I'm more frustrated by the one on the left side of the screen that we haven't even revealed yet. Be an S, or at least be a filly. Man, we have gotten cucked by that horse the entire time we've been live. Is not at Dirty Diana is the only good outcome. The rest has been shit. Maybe still in the S minuses here, LDF. Where do we race all these S minus Colts? We don't. Christopher Morale, LDF. No, RTF. So yeah, I don't know that horse very well. But yet another S minus RTF to throw on the block. Brooklyn's an A plus. So we still might be in S minus territory. God, I thought we would have more S's than this. We used S's. This might be our single worst breeding month. Unless it pays off at the very top. Okay. I guess. Running out of good options. LTS. Okay. All the fillies at LTS, which I don't know. It's what I wanted, but I wanted some fillies elsewhere. Okay, so Foal of Anna, we said that's the Gen 0 RTS A. So these are still probably S minuses. Autumn gets male. We'll save the grade for a second. Anna. Philly. Actually really strong soft preferences there. I don't know how... That's weird. We might have to look at that one. Would not have expected that. No chance they're an ass, right? No. Where am I at up here? So this one caught my eye because the preferences on the initial dam are not very good. Oh, we did go to Trotsky, so my sheet was wrong there. Shout out to Grape Syndicate. We've used that a lot. It's worked out pretty well. Alice is an A+. Ooh, we're finally in like this. This could either be an S- or an S. So let's brick and get the S- out of the way. And then the rest should be gravy. Yep. Okay. Okay, so now we are into the S's. We like this. Full of Violet, LDF. Definitely want a filly here because we've already had Ultraviolet, which is an S- with 9 of 9 from Shawnee Bear. So give me a filly. Okay, perfect. Love that. Love that. Saving Grace, LTS. Oops, I probably put the wrong grade in there, didn't I? I was not used to having S's. And it's still copied over it. Okay, getting closer. That wasn't an outcome I cared tremendously about. Ruby Slipper, I would. Billy, please. Might have to. That would have one of one in it. Yeah, it'd have, well, 2 Pluto and Saturn now. So that's not great. Rose. So this one is one that it went to Walter White. So we took a RTF to RTS early on, which I thought was a good strategy at the time. Now we'll bring it back to RTF and hopefully get a usable piece out of it. Philly preferably, actually. No, but it stays firm. So I think Rose technically was soft, but like a 0-star soft maybe. Okay. So we said we cared about anything Diana related. Diana has been, relatively speaking, a cunt for us in live. This is another one where we would have taken to Walter White. So we would have used 9924 at Walter White and 9922 with Jupiter, obviously. And I didn't inbreed this. So what did I do? I must have just used Jupiter again. Yeah. Not great. I mean, it's something that could maybe potentially breed, but I don't know who's going to breed with that over Dirty Diana itself. Melody is Gen 0 A+, so this is at least a nice outcome to get an S from an A+. And a filly. Okay, I like that. As Kirk Cousins would ask. Let's see what else we got. Juno McGough. Gen 1 LDF. We're running out of LDFs here, huh? 2 left. Billy? No. But I think that would have... That's interesting. I actually don't mind this one. So when we talk about doing things more unique and getting different outcomes, we can pull this one up. I think this has no one of ones that are native to LDF. So General Duke, that would come out of LDS. Shawnee Bear is a non-one of one. Obviously used a lot. Then Juno, I think, shares the same JPEG as the Prime Times of the World or Lolly's Legend, one of the two. So this is a rare case where you get an S Colt that might be interesting because really this is like getting an S Colt from Shawnee Bear. Now there's a lot of those that exist, but it also has some 9924. So that might not be a terrible outcome there. What's the chances we get an S plus here? Probably 0. Yeah, because we're still waiting for Violet Shadows, so I don't think this is A plus or S plus. I don't think it can be. We're looking for one here yet. It's gonna be an S. That's really annoying. Goat and Diana have been fairly bad. At least give me Philly. No. Wow. Wow. This is easily our worst window, even if we got S pluses at the very top. Eden, RTF, it's gonna be S. Philly, okay. Not one of our marquee pieces, but you'll take that from, again, that would have been an A plus initially to go to an S. So that's 2 of those we've got. Claire, this is only the second time we bred Claire. This is one we bought well after our live started and raced it because racing was super lucrative at the time. So I do care a lot about this one. This is only a small step behind Diana as far as quality and preferences. So definitely want a Philly here. Nope. Ape's going to be an S probably because there's no way this is an S plus. So we bricked here again too. And we get a Colt. Holy shit. LTS, just rip the band-aid off. Okay, never mind. Okay, that means we have more than one. And it's Philly. What does the bloodline on this one look like? Or is that the top? Maybe that is the top. Never mind. I will still take one. We'll take one.
Man, you killed left turf this breeding season, it seems like, with all the fillies and then an S plus filly to boot.
2 1-of-1s, so we can still use Scuba with that. We can use that unique sire that we brought up to the S level. So this will be a useful piece for us. Faith has actually put out a lot of really good horses as well. If we go through the progeny just on that one. Maybe not the best racing record. I thought it was better, but realistically, hits the board 15 out of 19 times. That's pretty good. The S minus was good. Didn't race the 4-year-old enough, and then have some exciting ones coming up here. This Eve, Little Faith is racing pretty soon, I think. So, any thoughts on that, or do you want to jump into yours? I don't mean to rush us along. I've got time.
I mean, I'm ready to jump into mine if you are.
Okay, let's do it. So yeah, overall, RTF was a dumpster fire, and LTS was probably good. LDF is average. We'll take it, I guess. We've had good windows. We've had bad windows. I still think this is probably the worst one we've had. But yours are all going to be revealed, I think.
I have not revealed anything yet, so.
Well, I'm spoiling it here, so I'll try to.
You want me to share my screen? I have it by.
If you can.
Sorted by
and
age. Yeah, let's see.
If you haven't spoiled yours, yes. I might have already spoiled a little bit. Depends on how close you were watching.
I was actually not looking too much. Can you? Is it on my screen now? Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, I just did the sort by age so that they all come here. No sorting by grades in these. So
all good.
All right. All right. Full of Aphrodite. So Aphrodite's right. Left dirt soft. Gen 0. Bred her with Eclipse. We got a really nice pref S minus filly out of that.
Nice.
I'm sure Pete will be trying to buy that from me. Let's see. Full of
They got
Aphrodite's
some good
attitude.
stuff this season.
Did they? I have to catch up on like everybody's reveals. Has it been, for the most part, has it been, I guess, kind of to be expected? Like no major main surprises?
I only caught their reveal, and I know Doughboy went through a few. I think there's a decent amount of S pluses this time, but I think that probably would have been expected. So I don't know
Sure.
a ton more than you. I just know they pulled 3 S pluses, and obviously don't have as many fillies to work with as a lot of people
wow.
do. One of them
Good for
isn't
them.
theirs. They sold a foal to Grape Syndicate and pulled one that way too. So
Oh, wow.
pretty solid.
All right, so let's see here. Full of Aphrodite's attitude. This was Aphrodite and bad attitude. Was a good racer on the track. Took her to Rock of Cashel this time. S minus Colt. Don't love it, but live with it. Full of Artemis. Artemis is RTF S minus Gen 0. Bred her with Indian Wells. First time those two have been paired together. Actually, second time those two. And they had a really good foal their first time named Well Off Artemis. Really good sprinter and right turf. Okay, S minus filly.
Could have went to Jupiter. Might have been an
Went
S.
to Jupiter. Could have went to Jupiter. Full of Astronova. So Astronova was a 19 boost S minus Gen 0 LDF. Left dirt this season, this past breeding season. So these foals, almost all my left dirt stuff went to Rose of Zion last season, with the exception of one horse I took to Morningwood, and I took one to Moe's Hammer. That's Wolof's non-one of one SLDF. So Astronova. Okay, an S Colt out of that. Full of Cosmo. Cosmo was an SLDF Gen 0. Okay, solid preps there.
Where did you go on breeding that one this time?
So Cosmo went to Rose of Zion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rose of Zion put out a couple S pluses this window too. Eventually, we can maybe look at the progeny tab, but we can keep going through yours.
Yeah, definitely. I have a bunch from them, so I would spoil
Nice.
if I looked. But yeah, that's good to hear, knowing that I went heavy to him this season. All right, Full of Crown Bias. Crown Bias was a horse that I actually purchased and was really surprised with how well it ran. It was a Bag Bias. Scuba was the father of Crown Bias, and it was a non-one of one on the mother's side. Let's see what we did here. This is the one I took to Morningwood, I believe. Yes.
Colt.
Colt. Don't love it, but as we've seen, there's a lot more opportunities for Colts nowadays with these higher claimer races.
Yep.
And all right, Full of Cyber Gaia. Okay, interesting. Cyber Gaia was one I was really interested to see. She was one of the few that's she revealed SS minus for speed. You know, I'm a big believer in speed.
Yep.
And we bred her with hot sauce, I believe.
Oh, so this is probably you like the filly, but you probably thought you deserved a little bit better there.
I mean, we were definitely hoping for an S plus here, for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, as we've seen with radials, S pluses can be amazing, and S pluses can be the worst horse on the track comparatively to just S horses too. So
For sure, global grade's not
really
everything.
know. Global grade is not everything. Okay, Full of Ethereal Elegance. Ethereal Elegance is an S minus RDF.
Philly,
Okay,
S. That's
S
a good
Philly.
result.
Happy with that. Full of Gaia. Gaia is an S RDF. Bred her with hot sauce as well.
Billy.
S. Philly. Okay, not mad at that. Full of Isis. So Isis is an S minus RDF. She's one of those rare scuba. She has scuba in her in the Gen Zero. And she's bred extremely well. I think she's 4 out of her 5 foals have gone up to S's. Let's see how she did this time. Another S.
That's Philly.
Philly.
Nice.
I love that. Full of Ivory. LDS. S minus Gen Zero. She's bred really well. S minus Colt.
So is it Bad Ivories? That was the really good LDS
Yes.
racer this past. That's
Correct.
from that bloodline then?
That's
Yeah.
from that bloodline. That's her and Bad Attitude. And this one here was with Eclipse. So, good prep.
People send a refund in the mail.
Mm-hmm. Full of Khaleesi. Khaleesi was a S minus RTF Gen Zero. Who did I breed her with real quick here?
Not
okay,
us.
This was with
Not
Indian
us.
Wells. Yeah, she went to Indian
You're
Wells. Hey, I was one of the first ones to go to Jupiter.
For sure.
Okay,
For
rolled
sure.
up to an S there. All right.
Speaking of
Hey,
going to Jupiter first, this is
Speaking
it.
of, here we go. Yeah, Khaleesi of Jupiter. And we took this one to Mundo.
Our RTS.
Yes, took this one to Mundo at RTS, knowing we may sacrifice some preferences a little bit. Okay. S Colts.
So it's still a good piece because you've used 2 1-of-1s, but you've only used one that is kind of native to RTF.
that
I like
archetype.
that.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So give us some options. And sometimes these Colts are just all about reveals too, when you start to get
Right.
into, how much can you use them internally down the road. Okay, full of King Spirit. So King Spirit was my first S plus that I bred. Spirit of Ecstasy and Ace King. She bred with Shockwave. This is going to be her second time to breed, second pairing with Shockwave. Their first time they did create an S plus. Let's see what we did here.
There you go.
S plus Colt. Okay.
Do you have a Colt last time? Do you know offhand?
That one was a female.
Okay.
I believe.
Now you got options.
I believe it was a female. Now we got options. Yeah, definitely. Okay, full of Matriarch. Matriarch, rare RDF S Scuba filly, Gen Zero. And paired her with Benedict, who I really liked on paper. Their breeding report was pretty tasty. Let's see what we got.
There you go.
S plus Colt. All right. Not mad at that one at all. Okay, Meme Girl.
Must be LDF.
This is LDF, correct? And this was a S. And she actually raced well. She surprised me of how well she raced. Let's see what we did here. Okay, 8.5 pref S minus. What did I do here? This is one that I cannot remember off the top of my head what I did. Oh, this is the Moe's Hammer. Okay, yeah, that's right. So this is all non-1-of-1s here. In this, would have loved obviously to roll up to an S.
An S, yeah.
Yeah, but
did you use Moe's Hammer a lot or just this one time? I looked at it. It was pretty expensive. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Is the only issues I have with it is obviously it's from Shawnee Bear, which there's been a lot of use there already. So it's unique, but it's not super unique. But to have those kind of preferences on an S, I think is pretty attractive.
Yeah, definitely. So, really strong prep here. We'll see kind of what we get. Probably going to be a decently good racer, especially if I don't know, are the grade restricted stuff, is grade restricted sticking around? I haven't looked at the schedule a ton for season 9 yet.
Well, I'll say the allowances that have grade restrictions and grade restricted races are still very much there. It does seem as if they moved them up a notch, which I think means that they're paying attention to just kind of the actual population of horses that horses are breeding up. So there needs to be more coverage for kind of the S minus level. Now, there's never going to be enough coverage for as many S minuses as we revealed, but there is some there. We could talk about the schedule a little bit later, but yeah, I still think horses that stay S minus between an S and an S minus tend to be pretty good. So I think you're right. It's probably a good racer.
Cool. All right, moving on. Foal of Olympia. Olympia was an S minus LDF. She had Ziggy as the one of one in her, and we took her to Rose of Zion. S Colt, okay. Full of One Night Stand. One Night Stand is a non-one of one S minus LDF. Took her to Rose of Zion as well. So this will be a non-one of one here. S Philly, okay.
Philly,
that's a good roll there.
Useful.
Very useful there. A lot of different places that one can go. Okay. Full of Royalty. Let's see. Royalty gave me an S plus last breeding season when she was paired up with Zeus. And we paired her with Hot Sauce. S Colt. Don't love it. Setting Sons Apollo. My one and only A plus in the barn.
You just keep that to make the rest of us feel good about ourselves, or?
Well, she has good preps. She raced well.
Yeah, I see she's got good preps. Nice S Philly.
S Philly, yeah. She's that's
with Benedict. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I took an S plus to an A plus. This is one of those I'm like, yeah, let's just see what happens, But definitely, who knows about what this one will be on the track. But this is this is purely a breeding play here. So,
yeah,
happy with that. And
yeah, for sure.
And she, just see really quick. 3 S's from this A plus thus far.
Most of those would have been primetime breeds, or what do you? Without looking,
no, actually not. Like, so this right here, this Electric Sunset, that's Zeus. This one was the Benedict that we just revealed. Yeah. And this one I believe was Zeus as well. So yeah, whenever she's paired
keeps
with
pretty solid preferences. Yeah,
and she's been breeding well, breeding up and keeping preps. So okay, what have we got here? 6 left. Spirit of Ecstasy. SRDF Gen 0 Astro. She's bred extremely well. And we paired her with Hot Sauce.
Benedict. Okay.
Hoping for an S plus here. S plus Colt.
And got it.
S plus Colt. Good prefs. Excited to see what that one can do on the track. Yeah, Spirit of Ecstasy. I think that's her 3rd S plus now that she's bred. And then the only old enough S plus to breed, King Spirit, has now bred a couple S pluses as well. So, loving that line. Okay, Stargirl, highest in rarity at SRDF for non-one of ones. She's Ziggy is her one of one side. And bred her with Benedict, obviously hoping for an S plus here.
And
S
you
plus
will
Colt.
receive.
Still
A lot of
that.
Colts, but yeah, I mean, you're not going to
a lot of Colts, yeah. I'm in a way, I'm not too mad at it. I've sold a lot of colts up to this point, and now I'm kind of like, you know what? Maybe I'm going to hold on to some colts and lower my breeding costs going forward in the future a little bit. So I'm going to have to think about what I want to do with some of these colts and how it affects me down the road. Yeah.
Will we be able to claim that in a 250K claimer, or
probably not?
That's not going to happen.
Not going to be running around in that. Yeah. Okay, Foal of Star Time. Star Time was a Prime Time and Star Girl offspring. Star Time did have a nice reveal with SS minus speed. S minus start was something I didn't love on hers, and just the way that things kind of played out with her bloodlines here, the downgrade was my best viable option in the stud barn. So really curious to see what this one does. S filly. Okay. Not mad at it.
Get a filly though. Yeah.
Not mad at getting a filly. All right, Supersonic. LDF, yeah, SLDF. Bred her with Rose of Zion. This is her second time to breed with Rose of Zion. The first one is 2 years old today, and I need to actually register him for a race. That was a colt, so I'm hoping for a filly here. That's filly. All right, take that. Good preps too. Happy with that.
Yeah.
All right, Foal of Supremacy. She's bred really well. S minus LDF. She was a 20 boost. She's an S LDF, right? No, S minus LDF. Excuse me. Yeah. High boost S minus LDF. Bred her with Rose of Zion as well. That's colt. Okay. Last but not least, Foal of Timeless Spirit. Timeless Spirit is at a prime time in Spirit of Ecstasy. This one did reveal an SS minus on stamina and had really good prefs. And this was one that I kind of took a real flyer here, Stins. I did the Stins zig when everybody else zags. Because I took this right dirt firm horse to Lucy Juice, who is a left dirt firm horse. Yeah. And the thought was really like, you know what? As we've seen, good horses on the track can overcome poor preferences. We see it all the time. We also see 8-9 star pref horses that are winless in 20 starts. So this was all about let's match up attributes and go with the best available stat attribute grades, and kind of not pay too much attention to the preferences. I will say at least we do match 2 of the 3 preferences with the dirt and the firm aspect.
Right.
The one that doesn't.
Yeah, you're not just completely blowing it up. Yeah,
exactly. Not completely blowing it up. So yeah, this is kind of like no expectations. Curious what this will be. Okay, Foal of Timeless Spirit. Let's see it. S plus filly. And see, this was kind of what I was hoping for. Was like, because this now gives you
can use it both directions.
Can go both directions. So not limited to only one archetype and what studs are available there. Probably at this stage in the game, not really a necessity to have a ton of options in the stud barn, but like as we move forward, this is one of those that'll be nice to be able to have just a much larger group to choose from of who I want to pair her with. So overall, really happy.
Yeah, huge win for the stat grades matter above all else, and stat grades is your way to breed up crowd. So, yeah, you actually, and I don't know how much time you got. You just tell me to shut up whenever, but you actually beat me to the one talking point I wanted, or 2 talking points, but that's one of them that I wanted to get to is, so obviously noticing you're very RDF heavy. Obviously you have some LDF pieces, you have some RTF pieces, but now it's at what point do you have enough RDF S's or S pluses that you either trade from that surplus for a different archetype, or as you just showed, do you maybe try to expose those to other archetypes yourself? Are you doing a little bit of both, or are you going to spread it out this way?
I think a little bit of both is typically the best option for me, at least in my stable. I'm definitely wanting to get into, or not get into, but grow my stable a little bit more on the left dirt side of things. When I kind of got into the game, left dirt was like being diamond handed, and right dirt was kind of my best opportunity just because of the largest amount of horses. And so that's where I went and took advantage of what I could take advantage of. But some of these pieces will allow me to trade or sell and use those funds to go purchase some solid LD pieces. So anybody listening, if you have solid LD pieces and you're interested in some right dirt pieces, holler at me. I'm sure we can figure something out.
And then kind of the other big talking point, I made the joke that would we see the S plus and 250K claimers, but I mean, how do you think as a community we navigate the racing schedule and how it differs? And again, I know you just said you hadn't looked through a lot of it, but what I'll say is like there's basically a 250K claimer each day. Now it might not be your distance, it might not be your weather, but it exists, whereas we only had one bite at that apple each week prior to this. So like what races in a 250K claimer? What do you think races in 175K claimers, the other bucket, and then maybe 125?
Yeah, well, first of all, like I love the higher stakes claimers. I think it was really needed and necessary. I'm really happy to see that the team has listened to that and is, accommodating that. I think, those are going to be the fastest growing segment of the game in terms of where people are racing and the opportunities that there are racing. I think you'll see in the 250K stuff, I think you will see, a mixture of really good racing S colts that maybe don't have the best preferences, or maybe have multiple one-of-ones in the bloodline, something that gives the perceived value to the overall participants in the marketplace, like a reason not to buy it at a certain price point, but makes it really attractive to go and race in claimers, obviously depending on who the bloodline is and all that good stuff. The one big one that I'm kind of waiting to see is like, what happens with fillies, with claimers. I know there's been a lot of discussion around how do you make that happen. And I've been a fan of kind of, what you have recommended, Stens, on like hey, if it's, 125K claimer, let's just simply say it's 125K if it's a male, and it's, 225K or whatever we want to do there for if you want to claim the female in that race. And I do think that's something that's like the next evolution in claimers. Was like just getting them in was step one. Step two was getting some higher grade or higher buy-in, in price point claimers. That's now complete. The third phase is to I don't think, and I agree with you on, I don't think that, having filly only claimers makes sense. I think that having the colts and the fillies together makes a lot more sense, but it does make sense to have different price points, at least with the way that everyone's valuing colts versus fillies currently, which, hey, that could definitely change in the future. And we've also seen, some colts do extremely well monetarily in the stud barn, and so that's made people kind of reconsider and rethink how they value a colt versus a filly as well. So I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, to your point, I think the filly piece of it is still to be determined, and it's going to be another season that goes by, which is, frankly, it's a missed opportunity to incorporate fillies into claimers. But they, to your point, listen to the feedback of needing higher entry fees. It seemed like they got the price points right. I don't know that there's much sense in going above 250 for now. So I think they've got that. they'll have to determine themselves of, do they have too many of those, too few of those? What does that look like? Because I mean, the other shoe with the schedule, or at least one of the other shoes, we've got Mr. B on the stage to talk about all the other shoes, but is when you have higher entry fees, and this isn't just claimers, it's allowances as well. It's grade restricted. Those might be the same, but graded stakes. I mean, we have an LTS race that if it hasn't already run, it runs fairly quickly. That's 14K entry fee. Like prior seasons, the highest was what, 7 maybe. So what happens is that crown pool of 4.2 million or whatever it is does get spread a lot thinner, because the entry fee is a determining factor in how much each race gets. So we're going to learn pretty quickly as a community that what you're getting for each race is less than it was last season, even if you're racing the same entry fee, the same exact race. And we have to figure out if we're comfortable with that, as opposed to do we have too high entry fees, or what does it look like? I don't think anybody on this call is going to say we have too high entry fees. But at the same time, we can't squeeze the little guy that was really sustaining their stable by trying to win races, but getting crown stimulus along the way.
Yeah.
Oh, and RVA's got a comment there too. It's no longer flat by Derby entry fee. That's news to me. I don't know if that was in the blog and I just didn't read it that night, or what. I wasn't feeling good back then. Is that Friday? Well, that does make me feel a little bit better that it's not flat, so you're not getting this outsized portion of crown going to the top stuff. Bryce is saying it's capped. Nice. I like it. That seems good. What's up, Mr. B? What are your thoughts on claimers? What are your thoughts on the schedule? Is that a building word these days?
I'll keep my thoughts on the schedule. GVG's on the call, and I'm going to try to learn from him. So I tend to be too critical at times when I see mistakes, but I guess in the scheme of things, the mistakes that they make aren't that important, and they'll fix them. That the team has always been responsive. So I didn't think like they're creating variable like allowance weights. So instead of 7, 5, 3, 1, they might have a 4-pound gap, and that just seems a little overkill. But I you know what? If it turns out that a certain race is effectively like an S plus S minus race, where the S minus is getting 4 pounds from the S, and the S is getting 1 pound from the S plus, if that's effectively just an S minus allowance, it's no big deal. I gotta get worked up because I just think it's not particularly helpful to create such a large gap. You're either taking in, either people aren't going to pay attention and they're just going to like throw dead money by putting an S or an S plus in that race, or it's effectively an S minus allowance. So it's really not worth getting worked up about. And I think Sauer sometimes goes in there, and then I'm like, and I had seen that earlier, that one particular race, and I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. But ultimately, it's not that big of a deal. They'll fix it like they pretty much do everything else. And, the claimers are interesting. I'm glad they put them in. I had a horse. I was debating putting it into the 200K claimer, and I saw the GVG put his in there. It was an S horse, and I don't know if he's worth like maybe even more than 200 right now under the way things are. And I figured I'd wait a little bit, see who entered the race. But the S horses are kind of tough, and these are the kind of horse, the one that GVG entered and the one that I have, which are like good horses, but they can't really give weight to full preference, 8 preference top S minus horses and expect to beat them. They're probably only slightly better than them to begin with, if that. I have some top S minus horses that I don't even know, they might beat my S horse, on level weights. So I certainly can't give weight there. So the way the allowances work with the S minus to the S plus, a kind of decent S horse that's not good enough to beat the top competition had nowhere really to run. These allowances allow that. So, the field for the first one came up relatively, weak. It was mostly S minus horses, and GVG has the S in there. We'll see. I think it's a really good idea to give places for horses to race. And I know early in when the game was live, Ian had always like, "You'll find a place for your horse. We'll make a place for your horse to run," and I thought it was a bunch of bullshit. But it turned out they did. There was a race. It was a place for all my horses to run. It took a little while. The distance preference helped with that. You could find your distance preference and then kind of run there. Obviously, the way the crown flywheel has helped. But they made things places for people to race, and they're doing the same thing again here. The filly thing is a little complicated. You really can't create filly-only claimers. I don't think you'll get enough to fill, and you saw what happened when they did it initially. It was like you and Soulmates were the only ones running in them because there was just tremendous crown. So you take a filly that wasn't worth anywhere close to the claiming price, and you'd put them in there, and you just kind of usurp crown. So that didn't work. I think having a ratio of a filly to a colt might work, but I don't know how many people are going to be racing fillies and claimers anyway. So you'd have to make it, pretty aggressive. The only times fillies running claimers are when it's a mistake, right? At least right now. So,
but I think there is a place for fillies and claimers, and to your point, yeah. Right now, it's a mistake. We've made one, and Lady Wasabi benefited. So, if anybody's going to benefit, that's probably the best place it can go. You can change the claim amount. The other thing you could add is 2 to 3 pounds advantage for the fillies, and then the price point might make sense because instead of an S colt facing S fillies, maybe you get S colt facing S minus or A plus fillies at the same price point. And does that balance that out? Now, I mean, that's a ratio you have to maintain, and that's going to be the hard thing with it. But like if you look at even kind of just going back to the S minus, basically allowances catering towards S minuses, like I actually think this is one the team has got right. So I don't know, this seems like a low population, so I'm not positive this is right. But I've got, shout out the gap data, 4-year-old S minus population pulled up, not filling for status, just S minus, any gender, 4 years old, 277. So, I mean, something you have to monitor because you have 277. But then you get to the 3-year-olds, and you more than doubled the number of S minuses. Or no, see, now it did adjust down. Now we're at 363. So not more than double, but up 90. So that's basically 50%. Then you go to 2-year-olds. We were at what, 370? Wait for it to update. I'm not going to trust the 738 number until it corrects. Unless it's right, it's possible. So my analogy is not working very well because I'm not sure I'm trusting the numbers. There, 375. If you go to 1-year-olds, I bet it ticks up even quite a bit more than that. So I think they were right to move the allowances up, which is kind of what they did. Now, do they need to give that big of an advantage to the S minus? It's hard to know, but I mean, where do you feel is underrepresented for each horse? Like what grade and what gender horse is underrepresented right now?
Well, it's tough because it really depends on the weight. With the four grade allowances, by and large, we've talked about this in the past. Even at 2 pounds, if you said to me if it was 7531, everything was a 2 pound for a grade, I'd probably still rather have the lowest graded horse in that race. It's not a huge edge, but it's not really a disadvantage. And because the preferences tend to be higher for the lower grade horses, vis-a-vis the moving up, as you move up a grade, your preferences by and large are going to be lower. They already have an edge in that sense. So it's very tough to fine tune it. And it really just comes down to like, what's the right, what's there that your horse can race in. So like last season, the A minus, well, I'm going to correct myself. It's a little difficult now that the Gen Zeros are gone because there were a lot of Gen Zeros that could take advantage of this, and I don't really have a great sense of the population for only Gen 1 horses now. But that being said, last season they would have races with like the A minus, where they'd have to race between B minus and an A minus allowance, restricted race. The entry fees were low, and the A minus horses were going to be at a disadvantage. So I would never run an A minus horse in a race like that. You'd have to wait either for an A minus restricted or something with A minus to A plus if it was a three grade allowance. So now this season I saw there was one that I was commenting on in the Discord. There was an A minus to S minus allowance. So now the A minus is the lowest in that group. This was a juvenile race, and I think they were getting 3 pounds or thereabouts from the A. So once again, they kind of favored. So if you follow the races and you have the time to kind of look at it, you can pick your spots and find the right place to race a horse. It's just that kind of picking winners when they do that. Or if you don't take advantage of that, you're not gonna do particularly well, because the 3 pounds you're giving an A minus getting from an A, just the A pretty much has no shot there, unless the A, and if the A does do well, then you have a really good horse, or you've dialed into your distance preference right away. But once the A minus horse dials into its distance preference versus the A horse, the 3 pounds is the death knell for the A horse. So, I guess they can play around. We'll see. You just kind of have to look at the schedule, see, it's a learning curve, right? You have to find your distance preference right now. With the Gen 1s and the Gen 2s, you don't really know. You think you have a guess, but you don't really know which stat might wick. So you might have a horse that you think is going to be a distance horse. I have an example. I have, She's the One, bred with Durban Poison. That horse was a sprinter. She's the One bred with Mundo. That was a sprinter. She's the One bred with Durban Poison again, and this horse is a pure distance horse. So, sibling, one horse, pure sprinter, one horse, pure distance. So you don't really know. In fact, the first 5 or 6 times I raced that horse, I was running it, the one that's a distance horse, I was running it in sprints, because I just assumed, based on the prior patterns, that was going to be a sprinter. But, it turned out to be a distance horse. So there's a learning curve, and you have to kind of race your horse. You can guess what you think it's going to be, but you don't really know until you start running. And then obviously when you have aging, which I don't think anyone really knows, we don't really have a big enough sample size to see how that's going to play out. Well, we kind of guess. We talk about your horse Jupiter, and it's hard for me to believe that Jupiter he's had some good horses, don't get me wrong, but by and large, he's been disappointing as a stud, and I just don't believe he's not a good stud. So I think that's aging, but, we don't know. My horse, Born to Run, it has been fortunate in that horse seems to, be early developing, right? But we don't really know yet. The horses are what? The oldest horses now are 5, and they've 1 day into their 5-year-old campaign. So we don't know. As far as the schedule, I don't know. I do know that they will adapt, I guess, and try new things. So, I guess I don't want to be critical. Once again, even if GVG's gone now, it doesn't serve any purpose to really get worked up about it. Things aren't going to be perfect. The game as a whole, the ecosystem's just booming right now. So, why get worked up that they have 4 pounds going to an S minus horse? I'll run an S minus horses in a race like that, and that's it. I know. What do you think about aging?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do the best controlled studies possible by using the same fillies with one sire every season, which gives you granularity and okay, is this filly outproducing another filly? Again, holding the sire constant. And the opposite of that is also true. If I use this sire this month, are the global results from that sire better or worse than the month before that? And I think I've got some anecdotal takeaways from doing that for 5 months now, but nothing super tangible. I agree with you. If you're seeing pieces that on paper should be good, whether that's Jupiter, I'm sure there's a bunch of other examples as well that haven't been, then it seems to be that there would have to be some sort of other alternative explanation that would explain that. Our Mercury offspring, which is an S minus, again from our barn, were pound for pound better than what we produced from Jupiter. Now, we retired everything at 3-year-old for females and would have sold all of our colts before they turned 4. So maybe I just didn't run them long enough to know whether or not they were good. I know there was the Artemis one, which was initially GVG's S minus RTF, made an S with Jupiter, and then this past season was actually fairly good as a racer. So I think you're seeing things, but it's hard to state something as even anecdotal evidence versus small sample size. So it's just hard to know.
So too bad Ghost isn't on this thing. I could bring up Churro in terms of potential late developing horses, or just to be nice, I guess. I don't know what Ghost would say. So yeah. So I don't
two
have
S
any
pluses there.
I can't even see. I'm getting old.
Oh, sorry.
I
was just looking at this. She's the Boss offsprings, both the Churro, both S pluses, both colts.
I'm not happy to get
probably didn't want
a colt a second time. I was really hoping for a filly there. So I'll probably, the second one will probably be the one that we find out, how Churro horses develop, because odds are I'm going to race at least one of them for a while, because I think the first one has better preferences. So if one was going to go out to stud at some point, it would be that one. But then the second one, it would probably serve little purpose to put out the stud there. So he'll probably be racing for a while. That was probably the only kind of breed that was kind of, I wasn't happy with. It was my best one, but the rest of them were solid. I did fairly well with fillies, at least at the top. Interesting. The other one that I got a colt, which is interesting, is if you look at the foal of Davenport, which is an S minus.
Trying to get down there. Yeah. What's the 1-year-old? Here's the 0-year-old. 9 of 9.
9 of 9. I would have loved the filly there. But this should be a pretty decent S minus to begin with. You've basically got S minus horses all around. S minus with an S minus to create a high S minus, and then another S minus with better than most. So this could be an interesting horse. But we'll see. So he'll probably end up at some point in the breeding barn, and it'll be a nice. So it's got earnest money and better than most, right? So,
did you ever run Lucky Lindsay versus better than most, and then Davenport with better than most? I'm just curious. You'd made the statement that it's a high S minus, which I think is like the community sentiment is like maybe you deserved an S, maybe it should have been better than it was, but then to contrast that with the racing record of only 1 win in 16 starts, now albeit hits the board more than 50% of the time. I guess the question is, do we know somewhat definitively that Davenport is better than Lucky Lindsay?
No, we actually don't. In fact, Lucky Lindsay's not my horse. This is the one that I traded with Monkey. So I traded him an S.
You gave him the S. Yeah, that's right.
And so I don't know. I'd have to look at Lucky Lindsay. Yeah, look, Davenport might not be a killer. I think when I was running breeding reports, it wasn't like screaming you're going to get an S for sure. So the fact that it was an S minus is not surprising. Sometimes to get an S with the S minuses, you just need to kind of hit a wick. So that being said, I can't imagine that given all the S minuses here that are in this bloodline, that, put it this way, I would think this would probably be a decent horse, and you're not going to see,
Should be.
like the JJ has that one, and then there was the one last season. Someone had an 8.5 preference S minus that kind of rugged was it speed and start were both kind of So we'll see. I have another one which is not a breed, but you might want to look at it. Is the S 3-year-old, which I just retired at RTF.
The Colt?
Yeah.
This is the one I asked to buy, and you said no without even asking me for a number.
Yeah, that's
you
the
and
one.
Everybody else.
So I think it's right at the top.
What's the name on it? Oh, sorry.
That shows you how much I know.
Play your part?
Yeah, that's it. It's funny.
Didn't even win, and you wouldn't sell it to me.
I couldn't figure out why it wasn't winning until this morning, and then I finally got it in a 4 furlong race, and the weather rugged from 40% to soft, and he ran a 77, which was like 10 points higher than any other fleet he's ever run. And so I was like, oh, he wicks speed. That explains.
Start. You mean? But
start. Sorry, wick start. Yeah. So sure enough, he's had a little bad luck in terms of the way the races developed. And I guess I wish I had tried him at maybe 11 or 12 furlongs, given that he had the S finish there. It's not like you look at the stat distribution and you can see why he wasn't like a great racer.
Right.
He's basically
you don't have any complimentary stats.
He's only going to win at 4 and 5 furlongs, given that, especially if he's got to run against, S horses, or if he's running in the restricted allowances, he's giving weight to an S minus horse, and this is not like a dominant S type thing, but the preferences are good. I think he's. So I'm not like. I guess after seeing some of the other reveals where with it better than most, I'm not like it's not a disaster reveal, especially given the way he was racing. I wasn't anticipating getting monster stuff there. There's no A+ or anything else like, oh my God, you don't want that. It is what it is. I don't know what I'm going to price him at. I have to think about that.
4K, come on. We only know you're one price mind.
Yeah, no, I can't do that this time. But, knowing me, it's not going to be some exorbitant rate. So
the real question is, how are you marketing this? Are we doing like combined matches of like 7 combined matches? Or are we saying like they both have crowns and they both have red backgrounds? So you take the matches and then you take basically the square of that number of matches. It seems like even though the team consistently says like matches are already incorporated in all of these horses, marketing based on match count is alive and well.
Well, I'm going to have to talk to Soulmates. He can give me some points on that. I think it's just a good shorthand way of saying the same thing. I don't think anyone's necessarily saying that the matches mean anything at this point, but if the matches go into the genes, then they're effectively there, and you're just arguing that they're a stronger genes, right? But it's hard to say, how do you say that without just saying matches? So I don't think it's that big of a deal. And if you were going to, what are you supposed to say? Well, the mom had these many matches and the dad had these many matches, but it's now in their genes? Or you just say, 8 matches, 10 matches, or whatever. So I think everyone knows what it is.
I think the motive is the differentiator there. Like, I understand you're saying it's a practical expedient. I'm saying the motive suggests otherwise.
Well, how do you explain it? Is it $1 less than Dirty Diana? I don't even know what Dirty Diana's stats
it's probably like
like.
25K.
Yeah, 24.99 is a good number.
Yeah. Well, I would have definitely done the $9.99, so you'd have to go to $9.98. No, I mean, I guess I would just tell people to go to the Bloodline tab like this. Like, if you want to say better than most had matches, that is represented by the temper grade. Like, we definitely believe that to be true, right? The high match horses tend to have temper as one of their best stat grades. Hungry Heart didn't even have S minus temper there. So, like, while the pictures, if you only look at like 4 red pictures and 2 crowns, like, that looks super sexy for a lot of people, but I'm not going to try to sell. I mean, I'm not marketing to sell anything anyways. We don't really do the fire sale, which will happen in an hour or two, but I'm not trying to blow up a channel and say, come buy a combined 17 match horse.
Yeah, I don't, it's a good thing. I don't really, I guess so far the only way I've marketed is by basically, ruining the game and giving the breeds away too cheaply, though, which is always fun to do, to talk about. Obviously, my hands were kind of tied just at LTS. So I, interestingly enough, I initially priced Serenity Now at $20K the first season, and I had one cover. And then I think I lowered it to like 12, and then by the end of that season, I was probably down to somewhere 6, 7, or 8K. And it wasn't until the next season when the competition got even more intense that I kind of lowered it. And at this point, it's just kind of the tradition. So he's going to stay at 4K. But
you're selling out instantly, basically, aren't you? Like,
I wouldn't say instantly.
First day of breeding.
And there's newer ones now, right? So Perlino's retired, and Zach is now retired. So, so we'll see. It doesn't really matter. I have internal use for him anyway. So, in the past, the key thing for me to do is I basically do my own breeds, and whoever else comes and gets them, that's fine. It'll probably be the same going forward. With this one, I don't know. I have to think about it. I have to see how much internal use I'm going to have for him. I ended up selling enough of my, it's funny. We thought we were geniuses selling, fillies, right? And right now the joke's on us. So I don't have as much inventory of like 2-year-olds as I would have, or now 3-year-olds that I would have normally had, that I could just breed right up with my horse. So I have to actually see how many I have. And then the question is, do I take my like A- horses and breed right away with the S, or do I continue to kind of breed with Born to Run, and then in a couple of seasons hit this? So I have to think about that. I'll probably breed my horses with my S- and not jump right to this, but I don't know. The higher ones though, I'll breed with this. So if I have like an A+, it probably doesn't make sense to breed with an S- when I can breed with the S. So
probably true.
But I'm not good at marketing. We talk. Kamish is very good at marketing. He has good stock. I'm not gonna rip his horses. He had the 2 probably most valuable sires in Gen 0 at the start, and he's done a good job of kind of creating new studs that people want to hit. But he also does a very good job, of marketing. Peeb does a great job as well at YSM. They focus on that. Neither one is really, you and I race a lot of horses. Those guys don't. They're more breeding operations. They do a very good job. They have very high quality horses, and they market them accordingly. So, that's good. I don't market. I never really had the studs to market anyway, and that's not really my thing. So, I'll put them in the breeding barn. I'll probably post something on the in the studding thing in the Discord, and that'll be it. So I don't know.
That's not spicy enough. People have been talked down to for like 5 hours on streams today. They're only here to see you go nuclear on the marketers or the schedule. Come on, Mr. B.
Now you say nuclear, right? Instead of nuclear.
What? I don't know. Did I sound Minnesotan or what did I say wrong?
No, it's
nuclear.
I think I remember when I was, this is how old I was. I remember when Jimmy Carter was like running for president, or maybe he was already president. He was debating Reagan, and he kept on saying nuclear instead of nuclear. And some people say it that way. I always, it always just kind of jumps out at me when people say nuclear instead of nuclear. I'm usually the one that mispronounces words, and it's probably, either one's probably acceptable, but I'm in the nuclear camp, not the nuclear.
I've never ever been called out on it, but I would expect nothing less from the person that reviews the SAT word of the day before he has his morning coffee. So.
So, and also today it's just overwhelming. I haven't sold any horses today. I'm watching people talking. I guess Ted's been going on a rampage.
Yeah.
Just best info of the day. Oh, Blue Elder. Which one is this, nuclear or nuclear?
I'm not sure. Grammar 101, one of the two.
Well, maybe, he's from Tom's from Minnesota too, right? Or is he?
He is from Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe in Minnesota it's pronounced nuclear. Who knows?
No, but the marketplace, like Ted's gone crazy. Ideally, you see more balanced buying, right? Like we love how many Derby has been spent. I mean, we can show you Ted's if you haven't actually seen it. But I mean, for the game to be super sustainable, which it can be, it certainly can be. Assuming Ted ever reaches a satiation point where he doesn't need more horses, then how do you backfill that demand that he's currently absorbing? Because again, this is season 9 only. We'll throw the USDC equivalents on there. He spent $254,000 US on horses
today
in less than 5 hours. Yes.
Wow.
So that's nice. That's great for everybody. And I mean, people talk about stimmy, get your stimmy. And I'm a believer in like risk off. There's a lot of people that have been here for a long time that had money tied up for an incredibly long time with zero return. Myself, yourself, like I'm fine with risk off, but I don't love the terminology of like get your stimmy. And like, I love Ted as much as the next person, but at some point he's going to have enough horses, and we have to make sure that there's enough buyers to absorb some of that demand. But yeah, he's up to 8 S pluses, half of which I think he bought today. Well, he would have bought 6 S pluses today. That's insane.
Wow. Wasn't Smith going to get like 5 or 6 himself, just from his own stable?
I don't know. Did you listen to that Spaces? I thought it was pretty good.
No,
I'll give the people what they want. He talked about his naming convention of things and like how prime time is like that's the time you want to be up. That's the time everything's happening. But which I agree with. But he conveniently leaves out like churro, like what is desirable or what is well remembered about churro. But anyway, let's see if he races this one. I don't know what he got.
I think he only got a couple, but it doesn't.
And by the way, Commissioner, you're still invited. I saw the tweet that said no one had asked you to speak in a long time, probably because you're speaking all the time in the Discord. But if you want to come up, I can certainly drop you the link. He's third. If you type in Soul, he's third in the standing rankings. What did he get? Foals. He's got 2. That ain't bad. That's one more than us. That is one more than us. And he's switching preferences here again, which he talks a little bit about. I think that's warranted. GVG said he did it too. He took the RDF to LDF. So there's a couple people making that switch. I think it makes sense when you have as many RDFs as GVG does. That's why I wanted to ask that question. Then he kind of answered it before I asked. He did the same thing, Lucy Juice with an RDF S plus. So that's a filly. GVG got a filly as well. So those will be two interesting horses to watch back to back. And then, so he's going RTS with Prime Time, which, I mean, he alluded to that's what he was going to do. I still struggle to see, like when GVG talked about it, which I completely agree with, is I think you can change one of the three preferences in one time. You're fine if you get a colt. You're fine if you get a filly. To change dirt to turf or vice versa, and then firm to soft or vice versa, like that's a lot. Like I think the stats can be still super good for this horse. They both have S plus stamina. They line up reasonably well elsewhere. It's obviously an S and an S plus making an S plus, so it didn't like wick down somehow. But I'll be curious to see what caliber of a racer this horse is on the track. And he did better on the name. He did better than the name. Platinum is more desirable than Churro, in my opinion. So
yeah. So anyway, everyone. I guess the one way to look at it is different kind of ways to run your stable, and so Kamish doesn't want to race a lot of horses, right? When he finds a horse that doesn't really fit his vision, which is mostly about getting a really good stud, he gets rid of it. And I probably wouldn't go that way, but I'm kind of a nut. I actually really enjoy racing. So I don't mind having, some horses, though it's time consuming. And now it's like 22-hour a day racing. I spend too much time right now during the middle of the day. I can see myself like waking up in the middle of the night and entering a race. So yeah, I wish I could give you some like this person is ruining the game besides me.
But as yourself, yes, of course.
I don't think anyone is. I think it's all in all things are going well. I also think the announcement I don't know if you talked about it last week with the Stimmy, the 4.2. No, obviously I'd prefer having a lot of horses for it to be more and always stay that way. But I think they kind of had to do something, and we'll see exactly how they end up reducing it. But I think it makes sense. It kind of buys them some more time to kind of get the marketing and the wagering aspect kind of moving along. So I kind of
I think the only thing I wanted to see there is I know I don't remember what day it was, but Ian had tweeted, must have been like Tuesday of the week, Monday or whatever, that like good news coming. Maybe we'll leak something on Saturday night, which was the Derby night. And to my knowledge, I didn't watch all of it, but to my knowledge, nothing was leaked there. Like if you're in a couple news that is fairly described as like level setting expectations, because yes, there'll be 4.2 this season. It's still going to be harder to get than last season because at a minimum you have more races. And then the following seasons, the three options that are available all include reducing the number or amount of crown that's given in a given season. Again, expands the runway. So if you tell me we have a cliff at 12 months versus a kind of plateau effect at 12 and then again at 24 or 36, like ultimately that is better. I just wish it would have been accompanied with whatever the tease was, or another tangible nugget of good news is here, we're going to give you this bad news, but we'll chase it down with something that is delightful.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. Like I said, I don't know that it's bad news. It's more stuff we don't want to hear, but it's not really bad news. In the long run, it would probably be worse not to do something. So, right? If you're a kid, you want candy, but at some point your parents are like, you know what, that's too much candy. So it's kind of like for the long-term sustainability of the game and for getting it to grow, I think he had to do that. I think it was the right decision. And the only thing that really pissed me off about it was him putting that redacted thing, and like, how the hell am I supposed to know to push 3 10 times to figure it out? I'm like freaking out, redacted, figuring we can get another blog in a day or two. And then someone's like, oh no, you just got to push 333. And I'm like, that just makes me either an idiot or like a boomer or both. And it's just like, I know Ian was trying to have fun with that, but like, really, it's not a minor point. And maybe it's obvious to others what to do there, but I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I just think the news that was redacted, to have to actually like type 10 times to search it out, was the hard thing. I would have preferred if you had to hit like 333 to get to the blog itself, like to even find it on the webpage. Like if you did that, then it brought you to the blog. But yeah, if that's going to be the news you're dropping, to have to search for it that way was a small misstep, but ultimately small. I want to get caught up a little bit here in chat, and I don't know how long I have you for. So, like I told GBG,
I'm probably ready to go. So, if there's anything else, any questions, I'll take it, and otherwise, I'll let you kind of. I don't know if.
I'll let you. Yeah, I don't know if he's jumping up or not. He's just taunting in chat, but I'll let you answer Bad Crockett's question before I do. So he asked, "What was the biggest thing you learned today from breeding?"
I don't know if I learned anything specifically from today. I guess I would say, I guess it's a little different for me and probably for you in that we have large stables, right? So we kind of do a lot of smashing, and it's just a volume game. So you'll get, a wick or something will happen, and it's not like you really planned it, right? You just have enough enough pairings of horses that sometimes things are going to go well and sometimes they're going to go poorly. I know, like, sometimes I'll chat with Sowers, and he just like, he's probably won more breeding reports than I have, and I had, particularly with the Gen Zeros, I had started out with probably 5 times as many horses as he did, because he really delves into each breed, and he spends a lot of time and energy on it. And I'm kind of like, I got too many horses. I kind of just going to, breed them and hope I get lucky on some, and other ones I'm not. I think with the lower grade ones, high match, like if I have an A horse and something like that, not that I spend a huge amount of time thinking about it, but those are interesting, and you kind of do want to maybe try things. Those are good for me to experiment with. I don't necessarily love running experiments with my top horses, but with a lower grade one, you can kind of play around and say, oh, let me see if I breed it with this one, and kind of think outside the box. I'm not a great person for that. I mean, you talk to Soulmates. Soulmates tries like everything, right? But
he's got more horses than we do too, so he actually can, and it's not really an opportunity cost when you've got that much volume.
But he also like thinks like outside the box sometimes and tries stuff. Like he's chasing this LTF, and I don't have any great desire to chase it. I don't really care. But he'll just spend time thinking about this, and he'll just do interesting breeds sometimes, where I think I am more of a kind of linear thinker, right? It's just very logical, and if I have a good RTF horse with high preferences, I'm gonna match it with that. I kind of go from strength to strength. When it comes to these kind of trickier breeds, or the ones that are interesting, you talked about Kamish trying to do some stuff there. Some people kind of have interesting ways of kind of moving, and I don't necessarily have that. Gooch is talking about, I don't try to move more than one at a time either. And I think if you do that, you really want to get a filly, right?
Or you just really want to market it and tell people why they need it. Like that's the other thing that's happening that we're not willing to do.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to do that, but I think sometimes it's a 2-step process. So like when I have, she's the one, and she bred a couple of times I've tried to go to RTS with her, and I've read with, Walter White and Mundo, and you're ending up with, like a 2.5, 3-0 roughly, horse. And that's not going to have much value as a stud. If it's a colt. If it's a filly, now you can kind of switch archetypes. So it's those are kind of risky. But the alternative, at least with like She's the One, was just to breed with Durban Poison every single month. And, what's the fun in that? So, I mixed that one up. And believe it or not, the one with Mundo might actually be a stud that actually might have some value because it looks like it's a good sprinter. So I'll probably keep racing it this year. I think it's, I can't remember my names of my horses. It's Secret Pact. It's an RT with like a half S. So you've got 99.22 and 99.25 blood, and it looks like it probably, you don't know, has good start and good speed because it's carrying it. In fact, it's not even best at 4 furlongs. It's probably best 5, 6, and 7, which leads me to think it's got good speed as well. But it will be a useful stud when I retire it, but it's not like it's going to be, oh my God, because you still have 2 1-of-1s in there. But it might not be a bad transition horse. There's not a lot of 99.22 at RTS, so it might be valuable there. But it's not like, oh my God, this is the nut RTS stud. Like I said, I'll probably just keep racing him because I want to have a good horse. Anyway, that was a long-winded non-answer to the question. So I don't know that I learned anything today, other than, I just kind of breed and hope the volume kind of works for me. And then sometimes you get lucky and, you take advantage of that, and then you adapt from things. But I don't know, maybe you have a better answer to the question.
I would say my answer is it's still too early for me to know. I caught some of Doughboy and some of Pete's streams this morning. Great work by both. But when you're not able to actively pay attention to it, and then what I do is I stream for 2 hours. Like, yes, we're talking, yes, we're looking at things, but it's really hard for me to analyze anything anybody else is accomplishing. So it's tough to know. Like the one thing I picked up on the YSM ones was I thought maybe that lended credibility to using a Gen 1 and a Gen 1 together seemed to get some variance to the upside for them. But that was before I revealed ours. And I revealed, 23 LDF pieces. We didn't get an S+, and we would have had a couple bites at the apple there. We used RTF, which was a Gen 1. We would have had a ton of bites at the apple there, and we didn't get an S+ there. The one area we used a Gen 0, which was LTS, is where we got the S+. So you can look at 10 different barns and come up with 9 different conclusions at a minimum. So it's tough to know. I mean, the advice I would give everybody is take advantage of your resources. If you got breeding reports and you have a modest stable, use them. I, like Mr. B, don't use ours either. But that's because I'm trying to run that kind of controlled sample of one sire with all the fillies 1 month, and the next month choose a different sire with the same set of fillies to try to discern any patterns that are coming out. That's kind of the biggest one. I'll let you drop if that's what your aim is. Otherwise, you're just going to get me talking for another half hour.
No, I'm going to leave, but I'm sure I'll come back in an hour and a half and you'll still be going.
Well, you just got replaced by a handsome man from Virginia too. So. Oh.
Well, almost.
He's got to put his earbuds in.
All right. Well,
Can't have a repeat of the Derby.
On, and then I'll drop off and let him carry. He sold some horses today, I hear, right? He did very well.
He's got his stimmy. Mrs.
Vijay is very happy.
You got your earbuds in now or what?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You went to the dentist today too? How's your mouth doing?
It's pretty good. I think it's think I won't sound too bad, but would not have been able to jump on Doughboys. Was a little no.
All right. Well, I might stay on mute and let just to hear JJ regale us with his stories, but otherwise I'll actually, you know what? I'll drop it. I'll just listen. So you guys
All right.
carry on.
Thanks for joining, Mr. B.
Later, Mr. B.
The viewer count drops by 5 the second Mr. B says he's done. Like, what the heck? Where's the respect? That or was when you joined?
No, it's
It could actually be that. Yeah.
I left.
How many did you sell today?
5 maybe. 5 or I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, and I had one horse claimed that I put in a claimer that I shouldn't have. So it's technically 7.
And you put a horse in a claimer that you shouldn't have because it was a 2-year-old and you're racing a claimer right away, or
It was a
you priced it
3-year-old.
too cheap?
It was a 3-year-old and it had raced well. It was an A+ colt, and it didn't even win the race. There was other A pluses, same number of preferences, whatever. But I guess because it had won some races, it got claimed in an 83K claimer, which I knew there was a chance. I thought maybe I could sneak it through while foals were being revealed. It raced like right after reveal. It was like 10:15 or something. But I guess the 2-hour window before, when everybody was on the site waiting, people were looking at claimers. So it had a couple claims on it. But like I said, it didn't win. It came in third. There was 2 other A+ colts in the race that did not get claimed. So must have just been because it had won some races. But yeah, I made up my mind maybe like 3 weeks ago.
That you were going to beat me to the barn?
No, that I just didn't feel comfortable with a lot of the horses that I had, just too many. So figured I was going to throw some out this morning. I did not plan for them all to go to Ted. They didn't all go to Ted, but the majority of them did go to Ted. He was buying up. I probably priced them a little bit lower, especially for Ted's taste. I do regret that. I think next month I'll probably do what you did last month and kind of give a heads up that, hey, I'm going to be listing, I'm going to go through and list however many, and I'll price them, a little softer just to kind of move through some stuff. But yeah, this is how it went. I know I had at least one person reach out and say, damn, like Ted's way too quick with the trigger finger, because they would have bought at that price like instantly as well. So I know they were priced competitively, but do feel bad for them not getting into some other hands. So we'll think of a way we can sell a little better next time. But yeah, I had just gotten back and want to do some fun stuff with breeding this week, so got me a little bit of powder to do that, because I did not get as lucky as I would have liked this month. But is what it is. Took some chances. 2 of them ended up being fillies, so I think that kind of saved me in those experiments. But are you on my page? Yeah, that was the biggest one. That was the one. It had a chance to go on the breeding report 1/2 star left. So, it was either going to be 0 or 0.5 stars for left, but it could have gone as much as 2.5 turf, 2.5 firm. And rolling the 0 on firm really sucked, because my thought process on that when I saw the breeding report was the worst case scenario would have been a firm filly that could then go hit like a Serenity Now or any of your LTS coals, maybe then bring that 0 or 0.5 left up to 2 or 1.5 and keep firm, and then you really do have a true LTF horse. Best case scenario was you get a colt that had the 2.5 to win there. Any current LTS could hit it because it didn't share any of those common LTS 1/1s. So, is what it is. You'll see you got my Diana one up, my Dirty Diana one up now. That was a pretty good roll. Would have loved a filly there. But yeah.
This is where you rolled the dice here. Wow.
Yeah, that's where I rolled the dice. So that was unfortunate. It still is a filly, like I said. So I don't know what I'll hit. Maybe an LDF. and try to still keep turf. I don't know. I don't know what's out there. That's gonna take a whole, some planning when the time comes for that. But that was a sprinter.
Apologies for the tech issues a little bit. Go ahead, sorry.
What's that?
I was just apologizing for the tech issues. I can hear me lag from time to time. The audience will love to know that I ordered fiber internet, but I will not have it until Friday. So
how do you not have fiber internet in 2023? Like, you don't live in the middle of nowhere.
Well, it depends on who you ask. If it's someone from New York or Los Angeles, yes, I do live in the middle of nowhere, but I do live in a metropolitan area.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know if I knew
your sports teams where you live. It's not super.
None of them are any good. None of them are any good, except for maybe the Wolves, but they barely beat
where I live, so.
the Pelicans. That's
bigger
true.
city than I. But yeah, so then I had like a handful of things that I did with this life. I kind of pulled a stance this month. For the ones that I didn't take risk on, I did the opposite in terms of I actually do look at the breeding reports. So I ran a bunch with all the different stuff, and I've tried to stay away from 101s for the first few months. Like, I just know I'm going to be able to hit them, but I definitely have gone that route with my barn, and I really just kind of fell in love with this horse breeding. It just had a lot of variance, it looked like, in the reports, to the good and bad. So might have some crazy stats that are also offset by some low ones. We'll see. So definitely took a chance and used that colt a lot. So that was probably the best one. It turned out to be a colt. Good preferences.
And is that what would you have wanted a colt or would you have wanted a filly there?
No, definitely.
On this question, because you have all these colts already in house.
You just have a lot of colts that are unique already. I have the Better Than Most S Plus, and I got the Mercury S, and I got some 101s with only one 101S. So wasn't really looking for any colts in particular at RTF. But yeah, this one was the one I really would have loved a filly with, because it doesn't have any Better Than Most in it. That one would have been nice.
Well, and on paper, it looks the exact same as Dirty Diana, like same exact preferences. And if you use the logic of, well, one came from a S and an S minus, the other one came from an S and an A plus, like, yeah, I mean, maybe it is better. Who knows? But most people are going to use deductive reasoning to question whether or not it's better until
exactly.
Until it retires and reveals.
Definitely wanted a filly there.
So will we see this one in 250K claimers? 250K? Can I claim
Yeah,
it?
I was gonna say with the Colts, that was one of the points I was gonna make. Like, they're a lot better to stomach now with these big races, right? Like, if it's those are big ass purses, man. If people aren't gun shy in entering them, they could be more fun than some of the restricted or open races in terms of filling out. Especially, I made the comment earlier, and Bryce kind of explained it, but like, I haven't gone through and done any of the math. Contrary to popular belief, I don't know if Grape or if they're on this stream right now, but I know they kind of made that I was just a crown farmer all these months in PFL Discord earlier. But contrary to popular belief, I actually do enter all my horses with the attempt to win. I just don't win. I don't put like A's in open stakes or anything like that. So I haven't paid or haven't tried to do any of the math on like where we're capped, and we'll see exactly how people try to get as much crown in this last season where we have 4.2 million to go around. But I haven't done the comparison for like before it was 0.2 or whatever it was, especially for those high claimers. Like, if we're going to actually get strong horses, I actually am in one today that I think is open now, a 200K. You might have one in there too.
I started high on claimers, and that's kind of why I asked the question about the one you said you had claimed, because my mistake last season was and will be more lucrative than this season from a crown yield that you'll get. Like, that's just math. Like, there's no refuting that. So what I learned from last season was the last like 3 seasons, we've been basically selling roughly 40% of the fillies would get an offspring. That'll be different this season because we just got screwed on each archetype. Like we have a lot of LTS fillies. I don't want to sell LTS fillies. So the TLDR is I was keeping the colts because I knew I could race them in claimers, and why sell a colt for 100K when I could probably race it like 6 times at 100K claimer, win like 3 of them, maybe even 4 of them, and then ultimately get it claimed. Like I'm going to make more money. I'm going to get crowned. But there has to be like a timeline to which you're entering these claiming races, because if you think like a horse has, and I'm risk averse when it comes to racing horses past the 3-year-old season. Realistically, others have raced horse through the 8-year-old season. I know those were Gen 0. Those could be different. Most people are keeping horses for 4 or 5 or whatever. We're not. It's just we have enough horses. I don't need to keep horses until they're 5 years old. I'll have more horses next month. But what I learned is that I probably shouldn't enter a 2-year-old in its like first race in the amount of a claiming amount that I think the horse is actually worth. Because if it's 50-50, you get claimed, and the person claiming it realizes they can race it in allowances or they can race it in grade restricted races for 2 solid years. It's worth it for them. They didn't have to wait for the horse to mature. So we were racing there last year because there just wasn't enough races for S- horses, and that's where our largest concentration of horses are. So I would race the fillies in grade restricted, the fillies in allowances. Then you still have horses left over. Well, I guess I'll race them in claimers. But we're going to be a lot more selective in how we race the colts, because some of the colts we had claimed were like, I know Soulmates just won the Derby with a claimed horse, but he also claimed a horse that I named claimable because my intent was for it to be claimed. I think the horse is actually pretty good.
I've seen that one. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, so we'll see. Definitely super pumped to see how those play out, and I'm glad the team added those. Especially if they've made them to a point where they don't get farmed for only the crown. Like if they truly are like gonna be up there in price and in good competition, and really let the market decide what some of these horses are worth. Then I think they'll be good. So I didn't really think through the 83K one. Just with if everything else pushed up to 200, then the A+ is going to be able to race in 125, and I didn't need to put any. So that was, I had at least one person DM me that was like, hey, I put a claim in, like this horse is no longer going to be yours if nobody else claims it. And I was like, well, fair enough. Like I didn't think through that obviously when I was entering it, and I probably entered it like Saturday because I stayed on probably like every 2 days cadence. It's gotten to the point where I have too many to race every single day. If I can get 14 to 16 races per season per horse, like I feel good about that. So I probably entered that horse on Saturday for Monday and just skipped over and just wasn't thinking ahead that the new ones were coming because I hadn't seen them on the schedule yet. So it's a lot to look at now though with the 22-hour racing. Like I'm so used to that like break. I'm always like, okay, like in my mind, I'm like, all right, it says today or it says tomorrow. So I'm like, okay, let me scroll back. I've scrolled down too far, like, because I want to stay on a cadence. And I like find myself, I'm like, oh, it's already tomorrow. But I'm like, really, it's only an hour longer than if I would have, you really have to like, those 2, 3, 4 in the morning races might as well be the same day, right? Like when you're entering because you don't have that 12-hour gap anymore. So I think it's good. We'll see if we get off cadence enough to where it feels like you're not racing the same race every day. Because holy shit, man! If you raced against Little Dynamite, like I got on the same cadence with him, and it was just like I was just donating to them for like 10 straight days. With how good that horse is, but hopefully, I think it will. But we'll see. I know that it depends if people truly get off of that. Like I'm going to pick the best race every day. Versus, going out a little further now that we have the non-12 hours or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just trying to to the best I can. Like I've talked to people like Poker Player who, I mean, shout out to Poker Player. I think he might still be in the chat. Probably maybe runs the tightest ship of any stable out there. Like he didn't start with huge bags. He was listening to people talk about buying more horses for like 8 months. He wasn't buying more horses, but he's won a major. He's got some massive pieces, and he benefits a little bit from it. This is what I would say to anybody. Yeah. What I would say to anybody that's new or starting out and like is overwhelmed, like we started this stream, the first hour of the stream was between me and GVG revealing like 100 plus horses, and probably over 100 of them were purple color in nature. So like that's overwhelming. That's going to be hard to compete with. But I would say someone like Poker Player has done a better job of managing his horses, managing his stable, making claims, making buys than I ever could. Even if I knew what I needed to know, which there's a reasonably good chance he knows more, knows better than I do. He's got more time to pay attention to the half dozen horses or dozen horses that he's racing at any given time than we do when we're trying to worry about breeding. We'll have to breed 95 fillies this week. We'll have to try to learn distance preference for 30 horses that just turned 2 years old. Like it's the math works against my ability to beat him as far as being sharp. Yeah.
Peep kind of made a similar crack at me the other day in the Discord as well. He was like, they spend more time going through the schedule like than me because I wake up and just enter all my horses and it takes all day type deal. So yeah, there's definitely trade-offs with stable size. It's very hard to I mean shit, name it. How long does it take you to name your horses? Well, you have a naming convention. It took me like 3 hours to name horses yesterday.
You running at Taylor Swift signs or what?
Yeah, I gave up on that. I gave some really crappy names out. I don't know if it's a family-friendly stream or not, but
it is.
I started naming like
that you like potty mouths.
I started doing some Thanksgiving food names for the colts that I know will just stay. Nobody's gonna buy. Like it's just like I got one
cranberry sauce.
I got mashed potatoes, gravy boat, like just some really stupid names, but they're just like A colts, whatever.
It's not whatever. An A colt might be worth something to someone. Monologue for
like
just 3 minutes.
From
I have to
use
the restroom.
But Sten's just left me alone. I don't have access to pull anything up on his stream. But I will say the one thing I am really glad about is the fact that
you can pull something up if you want. Share your screen.
Shit, I'm on my wife's lap. I don't know how to use a Mac. We'll just freestyle solo. You go. I'll just talk. What I was gonna say is I'm just like so glad that we got that 1 day buffer for breeding starting last month and going forward. Like, people just get so wrapped up in these foals, and if other horses were also selling out, like you really would have to take the day off of work to get everything done and not miss out. So glad that starts tomorrow. Have a few that I've retired, and we'll start retiring some fillies over the next few days to start running more reports and see what chances we want to take next month. Don't know that I'll do as many. You know what? I think I might run back the LTF. Don't quote me on that. I need to look to see kind of what other people are doing in that space, the LTF space that is. But that's one that I was really kind of bummed. So maybe I'll just take a second crack at it. But that's to be determined. Let's see. I will share my screen.
I'm back.
Actually, I'm not going to share. I don't know how to work this Mac. And it started asking me a bunch of questions. It's not as easy as PC, I guess. Am I sharing?
I don't see it. It'll pop up on the dashboard when I do.
I was going to share. There was one other one from my stable that I was going to share if I had time, but it's not a big deal.
Well, we can go to it, and then I'll grab Bat Crockett's question as well. What horse do you want me to look at?
It was Foal of Mad Woman. And you have to reshare because you stopped.
Yep. I don't like the buffering is really annoying to me. I don't know if you can hear it as well, but I definitely can. Next time I stream, it'll be gone. Okay, so we got Mad Woman up here, and I'll try to get caught up on chat after this.
Yeah. So this was the other one that I got bailed out, took a risk, got bailed out on it just being a filly. But I tried to do RDS and RTS, and was pretty.
I think that's fine.
Pretty disappointed with the 1.5 right, at least. Going from a 2 and a 2.5 down to 1.5. But the point that I actually wanted to bring it up for was I think what we're seeing here is the grandparents' preferences. And like all these times when you switch preference, like you can still pull, because like I said, this was a 2.5 firm and a 1.5 or soft. But the Flushing Meadows there is a firm horse, with the soft horse. So that's one thing I was just going to point out is I really think that we're going to start. I do still hope that you can like lose a 3 if you go a 3 and a 3. I still haven't back tested that. Because like unless like all your grandparents and everything were all 3 stars, but if 3 of these horses had 3R and then one of them had like a 2.5R, like I would hope. But the actual mating pair had 3 and 3. I would hope you could still go back down, just because like it's kind of takes the fun out of it. Like once you get up to it, you can't lose it. But you definitely were seeing swings, and I saw it on the breeding reports as well. That it definitely feels like it's pulling in from past generations.
Do you think on the breeding reports, and one for anybody that doesn't have access to breeding reports, I would 100% vouch for what the JJ said, is the range of preference outcomes for any given foal includes the great grandparents' preferences, meaning you could have got a half-star firm even if there was no other and this looked like it should get firm. But the problem with viewing it that way, in my opinion, is all of a sudden, that looks like a really wide range. You can go to a half-star firm, and you could probably get to 3-star soft. That's wild. But like, what is the chances that you actually get a half-star firm? So to that effect, do we need box and whiskers on the breeding reports specific to the preferences and the outcomes there? Because like I get this is the range of outcomes, but we're not seeing it that often. I know we've seen some outliers.
Yeah, I think that would maybe be a little bit too much info, because then you wouldn't get people maybe taking as much of a risk. Like if it was like 90% or 50% of the time you're going to get this. I mean, you still obviously get 25% each way. But I think it might, like if I would have gotten that LTF and it was like, you're basically going to get a 0, 1, 0. Like I just never would have done it. Like if that was like the average, but, I don't know. Maybe there is a little bit better way. I'm trying to pull up that breeding report just to see what it could get. Yeah, so it could have gone all the way to 3 soft and 3 right, but it got like 1.5, 1.5. So,
what could it have gotten for? Sorry, I missed that. If it maybe cut out for firm, could it gotten too firm or no?
It was soft horse. So it could have gone 1 soft.
But one of the parents was.
Yeah, the grandparent was a half-star firm that I switched over to RTS. Right. But it could have gotten a 1.5 all the way to 3 on right, and it got the 1.5 at the very bottom. And then the soft could go 1 to 3, and it got 1.5. So it actually couldn't go firm. I misremembered on that. So I knew it would stay soft, but getting a 1.5 and a 1.5 was basically at the bare bones of what each of those could have gotten. With 3, could have been a 3-1-3, which would have been sweet. But we'll still take it. Like I said, Philly, you're never mad. Like you just aren't.
Right. Even if it doesn't fit, it's marketable at that point. Going back to Bad Crockett's comment, can you talk more about LTF? Because I wonder if new people could get there. I know I've seen you on a couple streams, but I don't know how far back you date to listening to us. But like the initial stable thesis that we had set out to have was we picked 3 archetypes because we knew we couldn't run them all, which would be what, 8. So we took 3 and only built towards 3. And what those 3 had in common, so that's LTS, that's LDF, and RTF. All 3 of those have 2 of the 3 components of LTF. So RTF has turf and firm, LDF has left and firm, LTS has left and turf. So the thesis was LTF doesn't exist. If we grab components of all of those archetypes that have 2 of 3 components, that we would be best positioned to build LTF. And we're now, 6 crops in on breeding, and I haven't even tried to make an LTF. And part of that is lessons learned from betas. I think in beta, the highest total preference LTF horse that ever existed was like a 6 total preference LTF. And preferences are not everything. Like even Kamish on the spaces acknowledged that now. It was a spaces, so you couldn't see his face. We don't know if he was winking when he said preferences aren't everything. But I think they've proven to not be everything, but they matter some. So in this case, like I bought this S plus LTF with 3 total preferences. It's an S plus. Like at its distance preference, it's going to be useful at left turf firm. It might be useful at left turf soft. It might be useful at left dirt firm. Like it's going to be a pretty solid horse. Now, being the only left turf firm horse, he probably should try to find those races. But I think it's proven to be pretty difficult to continue to move your preferences up at left turf firm, and that's why I haven't chosen to seek it out. There are other people that have. OAB, I think, initially had the most horses, at least in one stable, and then Soulmates, who now has, I think, the most horses. Those 2 have actively tried to make LTF to mixed results. I think what works in some of their strategy is they're actively marketing their pieces as this is a stepping stone to LTF. So even if it's not a great racer, they can put it in the barn as an LTF. People that are trying to create LTF will say, here's an LTF piece. I can use my LTS with it, or I can use my RTF with it and make an LTF horse. Have any of those offspring been successful? I don't know. I would have to look at that. I would say from a new person, it'd be. Go ahead.
Yeah, the colt that I used was OEB's, and it was an LDF sire and an LTS mare that made his LDFS, and it actually did have good success on the track. And I think the reason behind that is you bring in the left dirt, which had start and speed, which LTS did not. So even though, and then obviously, so if you're getting a bunch of people who still think, well, there's not many LTF horses, I'll enter my LTS in a firm or a good track. They weren't, didn't really care about that, but it was more so the distance preference of bringing in that left and dirt that allows them to be successful, not necessarily 100% because they have a 1-star firm horse with L&T. Like I think there is like a very good use case for like filling that void of sprint speed and firm, like going for it. It's just, to Mr. B's point, when you do these type of projects, they're mostly more than one generation of a project, and you can get set back a month. So it is easier for stables who do have a large amount of horses versus a newer person, which I think Crockett said, is that something a new person? You can, and if you hit the right piece, you definitely could make out very well with that. However, my disclaimer would be you also could just be set back an entire month. So it really is a very, very hit or miss project to do. Yeah,
I mean, I think I stand by my own thesis of we should have been set up well to do it. I don't feel it's worth doing, and that's why I'm not doing it. And the TLDR of that is I'm only personally willing to change one of the 3 preferences each time I breed. So you could breed an LDF with an RDF. Like, I'm fine with that. I think I would actually give Kamish kudos for doing that as early as he did it. He did it with Delta and prime time fairly early. He'll market the hell out of it. But at the end of the day, if it's a colt, it is a good breeding piece for an LDF piece because he already sacrificed that generation so that I don't have to, and therefore it could be worthwhile. These ones, it's a little bit harder for me to understand that because none of these preferences, other than maybe left, is ultimately that strong. So your next breed with this is what, LDF. So then you get left up, you get firm up, but then you're back to being an LDF horse. Like it's really hard. Every breed you make, trying to make an LTF, you're sacrificing somewhere, and that's why in betas we never got.
Yeah,
above,
we'll definitely eventually get there where you can keep all 3, but right now everyone's just, like you said, you're just, like you said on the I was close to get it. I could have gotten a 2.5, and then hit a 3 left LTS with a half star soft, and I could have gone 3-3. Because a lot of those 1-of-1s have 3 left, 3 turf. So if you get a 0L and a high T and a high F, you could probably very easily get a 3-3 1.5, which then all of a sudden, like, that horse can like keep pumping out the LTFs, like, because you can keep, like, it really is like I don't know, it's just a gamble.
I think Sowers makes a realistic point here as well of using RDF. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but using RDF to switch archetypes, because as Vijay could attest as well as I could, like, from a Gen 0 standpoint, maybe the weakest caliber horses, all else equal, was RTF, and the strongest was RDF, and that's just kind of how preferences cascaded with rarity, which is a lot that a new person doesn't need to know. But what they can know is the best horses were RDF, and maybe the worst horses were RTF. So if you can bring RDF and RTF fairly effectively, like, I'm all for that. I think Kamish has done that as well. Maybe did Monkey Tennis do it with Serena one time too, or no? Am I making that up? I know he was considering it at one point.
Serena hit a RDF this time, and so did Monkey with the horse that I sold him as well. They stayed low dirt. So again, it's a 2-point project. Like, they stayed low dirt because all those primetime colts had, basically 3-3-3s.
Right.
So you basically traded turf for dirt, and then now it's another month. Then you wait two months for that to become, breedable, and then you go from there. So it's tricky. Like, all these people that have done it, it just kind of takes a sec.
So then to that point is, yes, prime time's 3-3-3. So it's going to leave you almost RDF no matter what you do, or it's going to leave you neutral. So we picked up this piece from Monkey Tennis actually a long time ago, and I still have never used it. I should. It's probably actually a useful piece. But I think there's an argument to be made that pieces like this are actually as useful. Now, I said RTF on paper was probably the weakest archetype for Gen 0. I stand by that. But at least if I bred this with a left turf soft horse in a 3-star left, 3-star turf, then my outcomes are probably like 1-star left, 2.5 turf, and then if it had like a 1.5 soft, then I can stay firm. Like, I can have an LTF in one generation because I'm not trying to overcome 3 right. I'm not trying to overcome 3 dirt. And the firm is about as strong as it gets. And I know Soulmates has the Philly replica of this. His barn's so big, I don't know if I could find it if I wanted to.
Yeah, the name is I don't know. It's part of his Scuba Puff. Scuba Triple Puff is the one that it made, so you can find it that way. But I'm blanking now.
Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, Sowers, he actually really let me down that he didn't know the name. This is why we have him on stream. There's Claimable. Oh, it's only got 2 wins. It must have won right away after I got rid of it. Renee, I think, is the horse you're thinking of, or that we're thinking of. Yeah.
That's it.
So basically, the Roland Garros equivalent of a filly at RTF. So it actually has less at right. It's a half star less than the rest.
But
is
it was
basically
it was a 3 match with the puffy shirts.
So then I think he has tried to take this to LTF basically all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the Scuba Triple
5-year-old is an LTF. Yeah. 5-year-old. The 3-year-old's an LTF. The 2-year-old's an LTF. But it's still, at the end of the day, this is one of the best pieces to use. We're just acknowledging that, but you're still only ending up at 3.5 preferences, and four preferences here. So it's an uphill climb. If someone figures out how to crack it, and I don't think they'll crack it soon, to switch gears and tie the 2 things together, I will say we'll hit SS minus much quicker than we'll even get to 6 preference on LTF. And I say that maybe we're already at 6 preference LTF. I don't know. But if Soulmates hasn't done it,
I think 4.5 is the highest, maybe, from memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take a bit, but like I said, I took a stab at it this month. Maybe I'll run it back because the report just looks so cool. Like when you see it, it's like it's worth a gamble, maybe. But it also is one of my best fillies that I burned. So I don't know. I don't know where I'll go with that piece. What do we got here? Wolof.
Just curious. Just curious, as we talk about creative breeders, I want to see what he's trying to accomplish. So you got his S plus. I'm sure this is from Lolly's Legend, which is the S26 RDF filly. I realized clicking too fast is bogging us down as well. So hot sauce. Yeah, so at that point you're expecting an S plus. You start with an S plus and you start with an S26, which we all took to mean 1 total boost away from an S plus to begin with. So nice piece. I don't know if he's doing anything super creative. He did a lot in the betas, but God, this barn is pretty small now. Oh, this is Foals, but still.
Yeah, I think they listed that S plus today at one point. Is it still listed?
This must be from. He's got a really nice S minus Gen 0 LEF that I tried to buy several times. I'll stop clicking here in a second because I don't like it bogging down any more than anybody else does. Yeah, Lemon Drop, which was the highest total boost LDF S minus filly, not one of one. Spider from Mars gets an S, gets a filly. That's nice. I would probably buy that piece actually. Should just buy the Gen 0. What else do we know? Chat, questions, things we need to discuss that we didn't. I don't know anything. Someone educate me on the Breeders' Cup thing. What does it mean? Like, who wins the Breeders' Cup? Does the sire win the Breeders' Cup? Or is it just a 2-year-old featured slate?
You're talking about real life?
You know? Well, no, I'm talking in the game. Did we add a Breeders' Cup 2-year-old series or something?
Oh, the series this Saturday? We can't hit 3s anymore, can we?
I don't know. Is it? You think it's on the schedule? There. Thank you, Bryce. 2-year-old feature slate. Is it there already, Bryce? I'll try to make sure the video doesn't play because that'll really bog us down. Quick scroll down. Scroll down. Okay. Also, Bryce, since you are here, you should have like a auto play turn off setting. So then when we're streaming, we can just turn off autoplay. I'll get better internet, but that would actually help.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Rising Stars, 4 races, 4 furlongs left dirt, 7 right turf, 11 left turf, and 10 right dirt. So there's 3 races, 80K, 3 entries. So is this, Bryce, is this just going to be straight up selection committee and the committee's only going to have 3 days of racing to pick from?
If you really want to come up, Bryce, you can.
There's no qualifiers, I guess, right? Not that we've been made aware. So we better hope that selection committee is on point. I know we've had some gripes with it in the past.
I may or may not have entered 3 LDF.
Yeah, I mean,
into the
I
race
would
this past
say
Saturday and didn't get in.
my honest feedback is those need to have an entry fee. You can juice them as well, but the selection committee is going to be going off of at most Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So at most 4, because you're going to need an a day before. You're not going to can't race 24 hours before. So at most 4 if it lines up. So probably only 3 races per. And at that point, it's like you don't know your distance preference. So what if you race one of them at 12 and you're a sprinter, and now you're like, oh shit, I need to get in that left dirt, but you ran a really crappy race because you ran one at 12 and one at 8. I think those need to have an entry fee to kind of block this mass number of horses. And
we had 46 entrants in a 14-horse race for the LDF sprint on Saturday.
Yeah. You could still juice them, but like, why not also let people put up $100 to enter it, right? You get 16, was it 14 or 16? 14. So you could add another $1,400 to the pot. These should be the horses that people think are the best horses, and have the confidence to enter $100, and then you don't get. I don't know. That all. Maybe they feel really good about the selection committee. I know Paul Fleetwood has made some changes, but seems real risky to leave it up to them for only 3 days of worth of racing, when they're just going to get 50 entrants, like Sten said. I don't know. That's just some my initial feedback. I don't take it for what it is. Not saying it's right. Love the idea though. Love the idea to not leave that Saturday idle. Moving the right dirt to next Thursday. Think that's really, really cool, for sure. And then it looks like the other undercards will follow on the same day as the championship. That was one thing I was worried about. Like, were the 3-year-old RDs going to be able to race on an undercard that was stayed on Saturday, and it doesn't look like that stayed. Looks like it's going to follow it to Thursday. So not TTG.
So to benefit you, Bryce, what I'll say, like, I do legitimately think we should have got in with 1 horse, especially when we entered 3. It was an ass that consistently pulls the best morning line odds. Like, I think morning line odds are good and maybe just don't account for peak age of a given horse. I'm a pretty big believer in morning line odds, but the horse hadn't won as a result. I mean, I can pull it up. We don't have to beat around the bush. And it didn't get in. And the field that did get in was actually a legitimately good field. There wasn't A pluses in there. There was a couple S minuses. And that's why I felt as if our horse not getting in was a bit of a slight, especially because I named it after the best person in the community. Like, if Ted can't get in, then what are we even talking about? Yeah, 18 starts, hits the board 50% of the time, but it hadn't won. So it didn't get into that race. But then if you go to morning line odds for, we've raced a lot of long distances, but if we pull up, there's an 8, we'll pull up an 8 and a 12. So it hasn't won. And that's going to autoplay. We'll probably have to stop doing this and just give up on it. But morning line odds of like 6.5, like, that's the favorite. No horse has better odds than that in the 8 horse, or that was 8 furlong, right? Yep. So best odds out of 12, basically S horses at 8 furlongs. And then 0.81 odds, so slightly worse, 0.02 worse than that one. Softer field, but second choice in the 12 furlong. So I think the selection, or like I like to say, the rejection committee is probably weighing wins too much. Like, you have morning line odds. I know when Ron Paul used to talk about the selection committee, he had said that it's inclusive of everything that you can see. which likely means wins, likely means earnings, likely means podium rate, blah, 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 blah. But if you can see morning line odds, I think that's something that should be pulled in. Now, maybe it went to 1 because it's not a mature 2-year-old, but to not get in the race because I had to register for that race basically 2 days in advance, it's a bit of a feels bad.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, look, I'm not trying to kick out smaller stables. It just seems like if you own an asset that's worth thousands of dollars, and that's what the market says these top horses are worth, that the free aspect probably doesn't necessarily need to be. The other ones have qualifiers, right? You paid 8K entries for 5 days straight to qualify for the race. Totally agree those being free and being there. This not having the qualifier aspect, I think you kind of want to steer it to people having something like feeling like they have a chance to win the race, and not just saying, well, if I don't get it, it just costs me 1 day of, I'll get rejected and I can enter a race later that night. I just say it out of a precaution of the selection committee definitely has had a lot of changes, and I think it has gotten much better. Like to your point, Sims, there wasn't like A pluses, and we had like A horses because, and I think that a little bit was to do with the Gen Zeros because they had a shit ton of wins because they've been racing for 6 seasons, and they were putting like A horses that had 20 wins in over a 3-year-old S that had 5 or things like that, which this won't have. It just seems like 3 races we're not going to know anything about our horses. Like these really are like a gamble. So like people should really want to, people really should like feel like strongly about their horse and not just saying, well, here's a chance to get some free cash. That's just my feedback.
I probably will wrap here soon. So you didn't,
yeah, I got
you up on this poker player, but, what I will say, and 2 minutes for JJ and I'll be down here, is it wasn't tongue in cheek. I legitimately meant it. And where I would relate my experience in the other game to this game is, I don't even think Bryce would know who I was from the other game. He probably knows who I work with here and would respect them. But I was more or less, maybe this is giving me too much credit, but I was more or less the poker player of PFL in Zed, like small stable, very efficient, was actually first on the forefront of trying to identify like exploitative behavior, for lack of a better term. So I think as a broader community, like a PFL community as a whole, I think we spend too much time heaping praise on the large stables who could do no wrong. Like me and Mr. B, GVG, like, sure, we might not win every race. That's obviously a great thing. But ultimately, we probably can't fail given our stable sizes and the opportunities we're going to have to churn out better horses. So what you should do if you're new is build relationships, network, talk to people. Networking is going to be how you find your deals anyways, because Vijay is not going to list his best stuff, but that doesn't mean he wouldn't sell his best stuff. You just have to ask. And people like Poker Player and the others around the world might not have the biggest stables, but they've been here since day one. They've spent more time looking at the schedule than I have. They've spent more time analyzing their own horses than I have. So just because we're the biggest does not mean we're the best. But with that, I'm going to call it 2 minutes and 52 seconds with COVID. Oh, yeah, parting shot to Bryce, because I don't know if you were here at the start. One of my burners caught you talking about people phoning it in with a fake flu today, or maybe taking the day off. I have the real flu, potentially COVID, because I couldn't smell a pile of dog poop that was less than 10 feet away from me. And I'd actually had the day off for over a month. So it's kind of a kick in the nuts that I wasn't supposed to work today. I had to work anyways, and I'm actually sick. It's all of the bad things. And then we got all those fucking colts. Give us more fillies next time. But with that, I appreciate everybody joining. Love GVG for coming up, Mr. B, Vijay as always. We'll try to convince everybody that RTF is the best. Sooner or later,
we're making it, dude. We're starting to see some good stuff. I have some fillies that I'm going to retire after their race probably today, maybe Might race him 1 or 2 more days, but we'll get there. We'll get caught up. RD's gonna plateau here soon enough. Has to.
I agree. We'll plateau probably everywhere. So, all right. Thanks, guys.